Hello, I'm Eagle Gardens one on Instagram, and this is fucking talking shit with Eagle, episode 679. Hopefully, you guys have had a great Saturday. I have a great guest for us tonight. Oh, I forgot to double check you the name before we go. Hopefully, I get this right the first time. The Boho health coach. Did I
Yes,
say that correctly?
yes.
I was
Amy Lee, that's me, the Boho health coach.
Yeah, I was gonna double check that before we went live, and that was like the one thing I kind of spaced there. So I'm glad I
No,
got it first try.
thank you for having me.
No problem. So I guess a fair question right off the bat, since this is a cannabis and smoking show, what is it that you brought tonight to enjoy while we have our conversation?
Okay, so I normally am in bed at this point of my day. I have a very decent nighttime routine. So I rolled up some green crack. I needed some assistance. I made my cup of coffee. And I knew I was going to be up late with you guys. So I've got my sativa leading strain here. And then I have some GG4 that I'm going to end the night with. That way I can get some sleep.
Both very good strains, good choices there. Nice. I will be
What do you
smoking some citrus blazer that I grew myself from. It just happened to be wearing the shirt Empire Breeding Co. That was strictly coincidental. And
think?
some of this bubble hash that I washed the other night while we were hanging out. Be a little of both
I
this
think I
evening.
saw that. I think I saw you guys were doing that. I watched catching up on some of your episodes and things like that. I saw you were in the garden doing some work. That's awesome. I love that. I always love to see how people process their own products, especially what they grow. I think it's very educational. I listen. I do not have a green thumb. It's a skill that I have not mastered yet. So I love my growers. You guys are amazing. I lift you up because if it wasn't for the growers, even home grows, right? Home grows matter too. There wouldn't be as much medicine as we have. And so I love it. I love seeing it. Which is why I geek out like on the science of it and how you guys get such dope ass products. So I love that. So you said it was Citrus Blaze?
Blazer is what the strain is.
Okay.
Super strong. I definitely lean that more towards the sativa side of things. It does keep me up and going, but I enjoy it.
Me too. All right. So I rolled some pre-rolls because I have a tendency to break it all into the tray and then just keep chatting and never get the cone stuff. I'm a cone stuffer. It's just easy for me. And my little funnel, get it all done and everything. But uh what's your preferred method? Do you use glass?
Nope, I am a joint guy myself. I I just prefer that I don't know, the 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 nice long span I get out of a joint, I guess. I'm not repacking or having a bolt clean. It's easier for me on the run, I guess. So yeah, mostly joints. I'm not
Yeah.
afraid of a few dabs here and there, but man,
Yeah.
flower guy.
Tomorrow, 7:10. Any plans for that? Any big dab events?
Uh, Not for me anyway, but I know there are a few around the state. I know there's a vent lower Michigan there. In fact, Smiley Gardens, I believe one of our own around the community here, gonna be hanging out down there. For me, normal day. Just a normal day in the garden for me.
Me too. Dab day. I'll probably start my day with some dabs, but I picked up some concentrates. I tried some really good peanut butter breath. just this week from a local processor, and it was so smooth. It was absolutely delicious. There's a couple events going on around here. Deals. I say events, but mostly like pop-ups, meet the vendors, meet your medicine makers, things like that.
Right back. Yeah, I actually slipped my mind that actually 710 was tomorrow. It's a good reminder though, because that reminds me of Charlie's farm. Farmer Willie in the community there. It's birthdays tomorrow, happens to be on 710. And it's one of my things, I guess, is I like to, if I can catch your birthday, I I put that shit in my book and I try to remember that shit for out. So I've got
Oh,
it as my like scheduling book. I like put them in every year to try to catch everybody's birthday. Tomorrow's his. So
I love how
happy birthday,
intentional you
Charlie.
are. Happy early birthday. That's awesome. Okay, I'm gonna spark up because I've already got mine pre-lit or pre-rolled. I don't know. Is that an OCD, ADHD thing? I don't know, but cheers, my dear.
Cheers. I will start working on mine. I kind of like ran in the seat of my pants at the and sat down. It's been, I'm a little unprepared.
Nothing wrong with that.
So I guess as you start off that first joint, I guess it's a good in for the first question. When was the first time that you consumed cannabis?
Oh my gosh. So I got in trouble for cannabis before I ever smoked it. In elementary, I was the lookout for all my friends who were the potheads. And I was the one that was supposed to make sure no one was getting in trouble. And I was a terrible lookout. I have ADHD, so it was absolutely awful. We all got busted, and I hadn't even tried it yet. Right? I was just like the lookout. So my first incident with it was in elementary, but I really started utilizing it and was introduced to it when I was uh, 18, 19. I had already graduated. I graduated high school. And it was a way for me to just like calm down after the day. And it was introduced to me as a medicine like that instead of just socialize fun, I guess, if you want to say. I had a hard time sleeping. So it was like, here's something that'll help you sleep. And I loved it. I absolutely loved it. So I've come in and out of phases, obviously, because of the legality of the plant, right? Didn't want to get into some legal trouble and stuff. Was really watching myself for a while. But then I was reintroduced to it after I had my daughter for postpartum depression, which was when it really changed my life. And that's when I really dug into the science of it and was like, okay, why is this like, this is great and all, but like, why is this so great? So my first time, I was very young, didn't even get a chance to smoke it, got in so much trouble. It scared me straight. I was on the DARE committee. I spoke across the state for kids against drugs. Which I love to laugh about now because like what I do for a living is helping people find balance within their medicine, within their cannabis medicine. So I used to say, they say it's the gateway to all of the drugs, but it really is a gateway to wellness. So when was your first time?
Ooh, I would say it was right around 9. Right
Okay.
around 9.
Yeah.
My little
Like
brother.
elementary.
Yeah. I grew up around it. It's always been in my life as far as I can remember. So I had access to it pretty early on. And one time dad stepped out for the evening there. Us boys kind of just snuck into the bedroom there, grabbed a handful, not knowing what the fuck we were doing, and kind of rolled as best as I could, rolled one and tried to smoke it with my little brother, which would have been about 7 then.
Oh.
and kind of roughly smoked what I did, you know. I thought I got high, you know what I mean? It didn't burn very well and kind of, but yeah, that was the first time.
So what was there consequences to
So
that? Like I'm
I
curious
think
as a
it's
parent.
funny to hear it's a funny twist to the story that he got in trouble first before you ever consumed. That's
Yeah.
a different twist.
It was we all got man, we all got suspended. And I was just the worst lookout, you know, but I was on student council. So I thought like I'm the one they're not gonna suspect, you know, but also I was the one that they noticed. You know, they're like, "What are you doing?" I'm like, "Oh, not supposed to be here." And it was bad. But so I'm curious as a parent, because I have a 9-year-old daughter, like, were there consequences? Do you remember there being consequences or a conversation that was had with your parents? Like, did they discover that their weed was gone? Like, did they notice at all?
No, no,
No.
no, no. Unfortunately, single father and trusted to just kind of be safe at home while he was out that evening. Uh, kind of country living, way different time. You know what I mean? So
Yeah.
we were able to indulge, get away with it, and be in bed before he got home. As far as missing, what was missing there? Hmm. Garbage bags is what I was kind of used to. You know what I mean? Seeing laying around. So no, it wasn't a, you
Okay.
know, uh
No
missing.
one.
There's no way he would have ever noticed a little bit what we took missing, that's for sure.
Okay, so then now I'm curious, right? So now you've got me totally curious. So then after that, did you go back? Was this something regular or what was your experience after that? Like, did you continue smoking?
No, it was a good year or two before I actually got into smoking cannabis on a regular. Um, yeah, it just wasn't it, not that it wasn't a good experience. It just like I said, we didn't really know what the hell we were doing or didn't really see the value in it at that point. You know, alcohol was just as prevalent around, you know what I mean?
Hmm.
So, and the next time I kind of experimented with anything was with alcohol. And
Okay.
then from there moved kind of into the city where the next time, you know, came around. So it
Yeah.
wasn't an everyday thing at that age. No.
So my daughter is 9 and she has asked me several times when she can have her first joint. She's like, when can I try this medicine? And I'm like, well, what do you need it for? Like what, like what is the reason? And she doesn't have a reason. She's like, I don't know. And I'm like, well, until you have a reason, then we have no reason to go to the doctor for you to have a joint. Like there's no reason. Like if you can find a reason, a medical reason, then yeah. But it's just so funny because like you don't think that there's an impact sometimes on kids around you, but I'd much rather her experiment like you did in a safe place where you know where it's coming from instead of like someone else's that I have no clue what it is. I'm like, when that day comes, you just let me know. It'll be educational and it won't be someone's laced joint in a basement somewhere, like totally unsafe. That just is what worries me the most as a parent.
Right. And I definitely can understand that things are a lot different these days. And yeah, I had the same worries, to be honest with you, with my gals. And I always secretly hoped that if they that first and foremost, I've always had been straight foremost with them with my cannabis use. Secondly, um, we hope as parents, obviously, that we teach them, correctly to where they're not finding themselves in them type of situations early on. But I guess in the end, that I always kind of hoped later in life when I wasn't around that if anything chose anything, please let it be cannabis. you know, but luckily, none of them, as far as I know, tried until later in life. So
And we can just keep it that way, right? Like no need to tell me any different. I love that.
yeah.
Oh man. So do you remember go ahead. I think we both started at the same time because there's that little lag.
Yeah, there is a little bit of a lag there, and I didn't hear the question.
I stopped because I saw you talking.
Right now. Well, it is. We should take it more back to you. I was just thinking. I don't know how it worked out, but this is the third. You're the third lady I've spoke with this week, and I think between the 3 years of doing this show and trying to keep my history as quiet, you know what I mean, and tucked away as I have, I think you three ladies have picked more history out of me in these few episodes than most people have ever gotten out of
Man,
me with the reverse technique here.
we have a way of
So,
doing that. Listen, it's tricky because I'm a coach, right? So one of the things that I'm really good at is like kind of like probing and like asking questions and like, getting down into the nitty gritty. So sometimes I don't even find myself doing it. But I do. So thank you for sharing some of that.
so I guess the fair enough question is back with you as well after that first, real time there. When was it an everyday thing? What did it how did it progress for you?
I when I started like so from that age, 9, 10, elementary age, until I started utilizing cannabis as a tool. I was like 18, 19, right? It's about 10 years later. Um, I actually was living a really heavy party lifestyle. I was drinking a lot. I started using uh, other hard drugs in my life. And so for me, like my friend was like, I was like, I'm not sleeping. I was working 3 jobs and I was just partying in between, right? Like no cares. And that's when my friend was like, you should probably like smoke some weed and chill out. Like you're just running the candle at both ends. So once I started smoking, then it just became like only for sleeping. I'm like, I'm not gonna get addicted to cannabis, and in my head I'm thinking at this point that it's still considered a hard drug. And so I'm like, I don't want to, like I don't want to do that. But it ended up helping me replace like that party lifestyle and move forward, move out of that. And I started feeling better. And I was like, okay, I'm gonna start medicating every day. And then I stopped for a while. I took a huge break in between. I got married, things changed. um and then we started smoking together again during our marriage, so then it was like, okay, cool, I'm like, I really love, like, this helps me a lot, and he was like, yeah, I'm down with that too. Which is funny because I'm divorced now, but him and his wife have a dispensary. They own dispensaries here in Oklahoma, so we're both still very pro cannabis, which is great. So but yeah, I took a couple breaks in between, but it really helped me as an addict, as a recovering addict. I wanted to really step out of that party lifestyle And cannabis really helped me make those steps. It helped me with my mindset. It helped me with my triggers. It helped me with my actual addiction to the harder drugs that I was on at the time. And that's why I kept coming back to it as a tool. Anytime like I felt like I needed some more balance in my life, I would come back to cannabis, um, which later on I would learn that that's the whole purpose of cannabis is homeostasis, it is balance. So it all made sense, the more education I got about the endocannabinoid system and the plant and all that. Um, but no, it really helped me as a tool, as a medicine. I keep letting this go out. There's no one to pass it to. I want to
That's
pass it
awesome.
to
I
you.
love to hear that cannabis has helped it. Sorry. I wish I could. So yeah, I'm a huge fan of at least cannabis as a recovery tool lately. Um, I think could be a powerful tool for recovery, not only for a, a transitional phase, I guess, but in other ways too, like a rebuilding phase, I guess,
Mm-hmm.
through cultivation. Any thoughts? What are your thoughts on that kind of approach to it?
I absolutely. I actually met with, excuse me, a sober house here locally to discuss that. Like, do they welcome cannabis in their sober homes? A lot of people use the term Cali sober. I've used it as well because it's a lot of people understand what that means, right? That's cannabis sober, because a lot of people are finding wellness, finding that balance with cannabis. So normally if there is an addiction to something that's harmful to the body, it's stemming from something, right? We've got pain, we have mental anguish, a lot of time depression, anxiety, and it can just lead as a trigger to these other harder drugs. Well, cannabis is great because number one, THC speaks to that CB1 receptor and helps like lower down those triggers and those reactions. But you can really find your specific wellness with this, which is what I freaking love about cannabis because of all of the different cultivars there are, right? You can find a strain, a terpene profile that works best for you, which is, again, one of the things I love working with my clients with. They work with me one-on-one for all types of wellness. Addiction is one of the things that some people seek balance, right? They don't know how to make healthy habits. They don't want to use cannabis as a crutch. They want to learn how to use it as a healthy tool. And so learning the parts of it, learning how you grow it, learning the soil, learning the nutrients that you feed it, how it makes a difference, how you're going to get, this is why I love my growers, because they talk about higher yield and they talk about all these things that are like way above my head, but I can sit there and tell my people that are interested, right? Here's information on how to get the best medicine for yourself, more higher terpene profiles when you're looking for it. Here's how to process it into multiple ways to layer throughout the day: edibles, gummies, tinctures, topicals, things like that. So there's like, I just see a revolution of wellness, especially with addiction. Oklahoma is one of the highest addiction rates, right? We know that there's widespread addiction across the United States, and what I see in my eyes is a really easy turnaround is incorporating cannabis into that recovery system. And even, like I said, teaching people how to grow their medicine. Like, what better way than to find peace, find balance, purpose, than to grow your own medicine. I mean, it's a labor of love. Any grower will tell you, right? It's a labor of love. You're dedicated to those girls. Those are your sweethearts. Those are your babies. You see them every morning. You see them every night. You're with them all the time. Like that. That's your love. And I think it's such a healthy way to turn, sometimes a very toxic, harmful addiction into something very beautiful. and helpful and find that purpose again for the person. There's been a lot of studies on cannabis and how it's ritualistic and how it brings peace almost as a form of meditation. And I'm a huge advocate for meditation. We start, you break it down, you roll it up, and it's ritualistic. You've got people around you. So it's a very, very positive tool when it's viewed that way and it's used that way. And I hope I answered your question.
No, I'm loving it because, like I said, I am definitely a huge advocate for cannabis and rehabilitation for a lot of different ways. I've actually talked about it many, many nights. I say it reluctantly because it's hard to sometimes say to some people, you know what I mean? Especially when you're talking about recovering addicts and you're suggesting another drug, you know what I mean? To kind
Yeah.
of wean off or whatever. And it's hard to, you know what I mean? Even these days, I don't know. Even though it makes sense in my mind 100%, it's still kind of a hard sell, I guess.
I think the biggest thing is I tell people all the time, I'm like, we recover. Like, I'm just honest. I share my story, like this saved my life. I've lost 125 pounds and 10 prescriptions. Like, when I say cannabis has been the tool that I've gone back to time and time again, it's literally changed my life every single time I've used it as a tool instead of the crutches I was depending on in other aspects. And one of those aspects was big pharma. I was depending on big pharma a lot of my life for my wellness, and it was completely destroying me. So a lot of times people look at me and they think, oh my God, she's so healthy and she's a stoner. It's like, dude, being a stoner got me here. Like, being a stoner is why I'm still alive, like, hate on me all you want, but this is why I'm here. I have this necklace that has 3 charms on it. And I always tell people it's got like a cross, it has a feather, and it has a plant. I said it's his love, his protection, and his plant. And those are the 3 things that have saved my life. And I wear this almost every single day. Because if people don't know until they know, right? And they don't know the face of recovery until they see it in recovery. And they'll be like, oh, you were an addict? Yeah, I was. Absolutely. Not anymore, and you just see that light bulb moment.
It's a tough place, that's for sure. And I'm 100% sold on it myself. Again, just for multiple reasons. I honestly think, the RSO in place of, some of these heavy narcotics being weaned off. And then honestly, I think as far as like the rebuilding of yourself kind of comes hand in hand through the cultivation side of things as you grow that plant, you know, uh, you grow along with it. You research, how how to take care of that, and in the process, you ultimately kind of learn how to take care of yourself. I kind of talk about this, say this a lot. And I don't know, it's starting somewhere like a broken record than anything, but it's true. You know, cannabis is a bioremediator of the soil. You know what I mean? At the same time, I believe it's a bioremediator of your soul as well. As you go in there, you know what I mean, and work with the plant, it's sucking the bullshit out of your day. That bad energy that you had, unfortunately, it dissipates very quickly as you step into that room. So as it's kind of pulling the bad shit out of the soil, it's pulling the bad shit out of you as well. Hopefully you're losing that shit at the door, because if you bring too much of that shit into your garden, it will reflect in your smoke as well. So, but as that process goes, it's a very healing process, in a lot of ways. I actually had that conversation. It's funny. The kids laugh at me all the time. Another Walmart story for all you guys that listen all the time. I give away a lot of seeds and shit at Walmart, and today was no different. I'm standing in line real quick, and I hear, because on the other side of the lake's kind of a weekender resort-ish kind of like town. The people from downstate used to come up to the lake and hang out. And I'm sitting there in line and I hear people next to me, and hey, here they got a dispo up here now. And I'm like, yeah, we got two. You know what I mean? And he kind of chuckled a little bit, and I kind of hear him a little bit start talking about growing. I got some babies or whatever, and I happen to have some seeds on me. So I slide over and I hand him some seeds. And I'm like, oh, these are thumbs. You won't even have to worry about it. You know what I mean? Just put them in the soil. And then we get talking a little bit about it. And it's funny. Couple, grown men, first conversation, 5 minutes into it, we're already talking about like the healing side of being in the garden. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah.
And I thought it was super cool that, they we're coming to this day and age to where we can have these conversations in public and be proud
Yeah.
of what we're doing.
Right. You're literally walking in that, you're breaking that stigma every single day. But what I love about that story, by the way, thank you for sharing like that. I love that the beauty of it is that it's nurturing, right? You're nurturing your soul as you're nurturing your plants. There's so much healing in that, like you said, as it's cleaning the soil, as it's doing that, it's also cleansing. There's so much energy exchange between us and plants. And it is very healing. It is very cleansing. But that nurturing of the soul and the spirit, yeah, I absolutely agree with you. But listen, I don't have a green thumb. I got my plants. I live in my RV and I just try to keep these babies alive. Okay. Like this is my goal, is to keep these alive. That's why I love and respect my growers so much. Y'all, the MVPs, giving your love, your energy to the medicine. Like I'm forever grateful. That's for sure. I wonder if anyone's ever grown cannabis in their RV while traveling. You think you can make that happen?
I don't know. I think it would be cool. In fact, again, one of the ladies from earlier in the week, Mother Nature, was kind of talking about going across country and seeing nature, being in nature, and kind of YouTubing nature and cannabis a little bit. And I was like, you need to like kind of get like a greenhouse trailer that you
Yeah,
could, even if it were him, drive down the road and show everybody. I think that would be fucking awesome. I really
that
do.
would be neat.
So I don't know. I hope you can find a way. She doesn't know, so I hope somebody does.
Like hydroponic. I bet you could do like a hydroponic, my brain is like, ooh, rabbit hole. You could easily do that because then you could secure it. So I have a 30-foot toy hauler that I pull. It's a bumper pull. And so the back of it, so right now I'm actually sitting on the bed. The bed is lifted 5 feet in the air. So I'm like floating in the air right now, which is like my favorite part of this freaking RV, right? But this back door, this opens to the nature, which is part of the reason why I bought it. So like if you are in a place that you want, you can open it, and then it has these doors. This is actually a door with a zipper down the middle and little windows in it as well. So the Mother Nature, I'll have to check that out and put like my recommendations for that because it's totally doable. And then underneath is, since it's all open space, is my like yoga space, and I have my plants. That's where I have all my plants at. Is underneath me because the bed lifts up on hydraulics when I need to put it away, which is weird.
So that's awesome. That's awesome. So do you plan on doing a little cannabis traveling yourself? I mean,
Yes.
I I I think it would be super cool.
Yeah.
Do a
I
little.
really, really want to be in New Mexico in October. You know how they have the hot air balloons? They have this beautiful hot air balloon festival every October. And My goal is to be down in Florida for a little bit. I'm taking care of my grandmother, taking care of some things with the family for her in Florida. But yeah, in October, you can camp out there. They have spots you can camp out. You can boondock for free and just watch like hundreds of hot air balloons. And they're a rec state now too. So
hell yeah. Nice weather down there as well.
mhm.
Hell yeah. So have you ever cultivated? I mean, ever tried?
I did. I did. I was gifted some plants, some clones, jelly bean and something else. And both. So here's the thing. At the time, I was traveling a lot and it was before COVID. Okay. So I wasn't home to take care of these plants. I was gone for like 4 days and I came back and they were just so sad and I tried to revive them and then I couldn't. And then I felt so bad because the grower that gave them to me, I let them know. I was like, I was gone for 4 days. I didn't have anybody to take care of them. And this is what they look like. I think they're just dead. I think they're just gone. I couldn't revive them. So I have tried, but at the time I was traveling way too much. And then I just didn't give it a try after that.
Do you think you'll ever go give it another try? I mean, there's so much to gain from that side of things. I mean, it's
Yeah.
powerful medicine, but again,
Yeah, I
so
think if I really want to get some, I really my one of my goals is to have some land that I can host some retreats at. I love doing retreats. I love connecting with people and helping them learn about this medicine. And so I'd love to have a spot that even if it was just growing hemp and showing people the start to finish, how to also incorporate it into your food and nutrition, because it's so great to eat. It's so great to juice and things like that. It's rich in all your fatty acids. So I think I will give it a go. It's on that bucket list of like if we all the things that come into line. I'm a big goal person. I create vision boards and goals. So that's one of my goals is to be able to do that. So I'll have to come back and ask for like some more experts to come in. Maybe we'll do like a grow weekend. You guys can help me.
I'm sure there'd be plenty that would love to help. That's for sure. We'd like to get anybody going. That's for sure.
What
So,
are
and
your
yeah,
what are your biggest tips for
I'm
someone
sorry.
if they're starting a grow? Like someone like me, single mom.
Heard that. I would suggest that you start with some soil, probably the easiest way to go about. That way you don't necessarily have to worry about nutrients. And I don't know, I'd probably, even though I am a big advocate for regular seeds, I would probably suggest that you start out with the foam seed so you can kind of skip, the sexing process and kind of just get to straight getting you some medicine. And other than that, cheap light. You know what I mean? I wouldn't suggest kind of go out and break the bank on a light. There's a lot of great very budget LADs out there that you could get things going without breaking the bank. And then on top of that, I would try to suggest to stay on the drier side of things. Don't overwater. That's where most people make their biggest mistake right off the bat. And yeah, just kind of check on things day by day and
You make it
don't be
sound
afraid to
so
fail.
simple.
Don't. It is so simple though. It really is. I think that's where most people, that's why seriously, most people have a pretty good success rate the first time. And then they kind of go in overthinking it. You know what I mean? I want to
Yeah.
make it better. I want a bigger yield. So they start throwing this and that, and then things get confusing. So, yeah, keep
Okay,
it
so I
simple.
I
Yeah.
just fudged mine because I wasn't there. I just feel like, if you're away from your plants, you have to have a plan. Like they have to be cared for.
Well, they have things now for people like yourselves. And that's one of the other reasons why I suggested soil over a lot of these other mediums. Because at that time right there, the buffer soil holds a little bit more moisture, a little bit longer. Your plants seem to be a little bit more drought, stress sensitive. So soils are good for that. But now, like they make earth boxes. Like I have one back over there, which are kind of, I mean, quite literally almost dummy proof. I mean, really, you put a good soil in there, and all you basically have to do is check that tube. You know what I mean? Oh,
Really?
there's water in there. And then, if there's no water in there, fill that thing up and it's good literally for like 3 to 4, 5 days, maybe a week.
Okay.
And other other than that, you know what I mean? Make sure the light's going on and off. And a timer can do that. You could actually have the timer going. You'd be set for a couple of days in the earth box, couple
Okay.
plants. It'd be good.
You're making it sound very easy. Okay. Fair enough. I'm gonna give it another shot. I'm gonna give it another shot.
Simple. You should. You
My
should.
if I had to start with a strain, I would start with Golden Goat. I love Golden Goat. I can hardly find it, but it's one of my favorites. That sounded really country, didn't it? It's one of my favorites. But I just love it.
So, what is it about the golden goat that you like? Is it the flavor, the effects? What is special about the golden goat?
Definitely the effects. It helps me feel focused, but not overstimulated. I'm still relaxed. And I also find like there's a really great pain relief with it, which I enjoy because I have rheumatoid arthritis. So I have a lot of achy pain, like bone pain.
Right on, right on. Definitely helps with pain, that's for sure. Arthritis, you couldn't be more than in your late 20s at best.
So
At best. Or
so sweet.
I don't
So
know how
sweet.
arthritis
Oh,
comes into the
this
picture.
one's for you, my man. This one's for you. No, I'm actually 37. I got diagnosed 10 years ago. It's another reason why I wanted to use cannabis was because I was tired of having transfusions. I was in and out of the hospital all the time. I was very, very sick. So I started using it for postpartum, but I realized that I was getting other health benefits from it. And that's when I realized through education that I could reverse the symptoms of those diseases if I learned how to layer it, like making edibles with low inflammation foods, proper dosing. And I was able to like wean off a lot of my pain medication um, because of cannabis, because of it. So again, like we were talking about like recovery recovery from big pharma as well, healing the body holistically, bringing balance back. Cannabis is such an amazing tool for more than just smoking, when we use it as a full medicine.
It was cannabis, actually, again, kind of getting back to the cultivation side of things. I'm a huge advocate, well, for starters, just because of the pharmaceutical mess. I've lost a lot of people in my life due to pharmaceutical drugs. So that's the main draw might be with cannabis is, it can be an alternative to pain medication, not just, as a recovery tool, but as a replacement tool. But
Yes.
it was when I kind of switched more over to like and this was lately, I've been growing for a long time, different methods, most of the time in cocoa. Even when I was in soil, it was always, you know, use it, get rid of it, use it, get rid of it. It was never I never really put thought into the engine, if you will, how it's working. I just knew I needed this. You know what I mean?
Mhm,
Run it.
mhm.
Works out. Boom. Last couple years, Mr. Smiley's Gardens, the more serious organic talk side of cannabis come around. And when I started researching more what was going on with the soil, I started, putting A to B, the relationship between the plant, the soil, and us
Mhm.
became more and more apparent. And I couldn't figure out necessarily, I could see, like I said, the connection was there, plain as day. And I couldn't understand why doctors don't necessarily look at us the same way that we look at our plants. How come when we go to a doctor, they don't overall evaluate us for what's deficient, what we need? You know what I mean? Here you need, look, it could be as simple as like you're trying to say, just a simple change in your diet. Oh,
Mhm.
this, come back in a week and let's see how you are from there. No, that's not the attitude. It's they're already prescribing things that are relaying you into a chain reaction that
Yeah.
is a mess.
Yes. Yes.
So
Yeah. I agree. No, I absolutely agree. I feel that the healthcare system, doctors are really, there's like a random fly. The healthcare system, they're really focused on, uh, I hate the phrase like pill for every ill, but it really felt true for me. It's like I really wasn't getting solutions, I was getting band-aids. And when I started seeking solutions, I started, in holistic solutions. Again, going back to cannabis, right? That's like considered a holistic solution now. Um, it's just amazing how quickly it worked in my system. Like I don't know how for you what results like you use or utilize cannabis for, but a lot of my patients, if they're new clients or patient clients, are new to cannabis, they notice results like with tinctures and stuff like that within 3 days. So much quicker, a lot of times, than pharmaceuticals. You have to wait 30 days for it to go into your system to kind of balance out. Whereas with using it as cannabis, I feel like you have a quicker bounce back in your system, a quicker response for pain, a quicker response. I know for me, I have a much quicker response when I medicate with cannabis than when I was using pain, prescription medication.
I definitely use cannabis for a whole lot of reasons, to be honest with you. Yeah, I've never, take this for whatever it's worth. I never really stopped smoking cannabis. Honesty is honesty. I chose careers so I can step over that line my whole life. You know what I mean? I've actually walked away from great jobs that I'm like, oh, they're testing for cannabis. Yeah, I'll go do this instead. You know what I mean? So I've never really had to give up cannabis, but the new reasons why I use, I guess, has changed honestly, throughout the years, as I've kind of learned more into it and life changed. As of late, I've honestly learned that as you get older, your body changes the way it uses cannabinoids anyway. You
Mhm.
know what I mean? So how it was getting me high 10 years ago might not be the same way it's getting me high now. And that, you know what I mean? The
Yeah.
biggest thing I've found lately with cannabis, all things aside, I do use it for pain, guaranteed, stress reliever. I think everybody does, the edge of the day just to calm down, whatever. But I consume a lot of cannabis, no
Mhm.
doubt. And what I think I was guilty of thinking, and a lot of people I think are guilty of, is we like to think that we burn ourselves out on strains. You know what I mean? We
Mhm.
smoke it, we smoke it, we smoke. Oh, this isn't working for me. I need some of that. We need to take it up a notch. What I found out was it isn't necessarily the cannabis that I'm building up a tolerance to or whatever. It was how I was using it. You know what I mean? Uh, I could sit here, you know what I mean, in pain, you know what I mean, or frustrated, whatever, and consume, and consume. This shit ain't working. You know what I mean?
Mhm.
But what I found out, it was just that I wasn't leaving my element. I wasn't letting the medicine work for even a second. So I found out if I walked away from whatever it was I'm doing, even if it's like if I'm here at a house or whatever, just stepping outside and consuming. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Letting my mind float away, watch the bird flying, look into the trees, watch them sway. Let nature or whatever take, effect too. Let the cannabis actually take a hold. Then come back in the house, 9 times out of 10, you'll realize, holy shit, I'm high, and it's the same, the same weed. I let it take effect. You know what I
So,
mean?
do
So I
you feel
found out, a lot of times it wasn't the strain; it was the way I was using, I guess.
do you feel, sorry to interrupt you, but do you feel that that is like when you set like the intention with it, that you notice the reaction, you noticed it more? Like intent, like it sounds to me like you were like, I'm going to be more intentional with this. I'm going to be present. I'm going to be mindful.
Well, that I guess, yeah, that is a different aspect of it, but very true. Knowing that you needed to let it work, and you needed to step away. Yeah, but I actually got that from. I spoke with a gentleman called goes by Hoto Herb in the cannabis world, cannabis industry. Super good guy, and I had asked him because he'd seemed like he was the meditative type, and that's another thing I've learned and very respectful these days. Uh, it's meditation. I asked him, I says, do you use cannabis when you meditate? Do you meditate?
Do
And
I meditate?
basically, no, that's what I asked him. And he said, yeah, basically, every time I consume cannabis, I'm indeed, you know,
Mm.
meditating. If you think about it, every time you inhale and you hold it in, you're being mindful of your breath. You're taking yourself into that moment with every breath. So every time I use cannabis, I meditate. I'm like, yeah, that's so true.
Isn't
And
it?
and yeah,
I love
so
that. Oh, I
it's
love that.
it's a powerful medicine. I think, like I said, we just misuse it in a lot of ways.
like as a crutch.
Or just like I said, not even letting it, I mean, letting it take effect. I mean,
Not
at some point you've got to let it, you've got to take a breath. You've got, you know what I mean? You got to let it seep in, let it mindful. Like, I mean, even a pill. I hate to say this, you know what I mean? 9 times out of 10, I don't even know half the shit these people are prescribing you are actually what it is. You know what I mean? Is it the
yeah.
placebo effect? You know what I mean? It works because I took it. Well, why don't you have the same aspect with your cannabis? Why don't you, mindfully let it work? I need
Yeah.
this to work. And if I don't know.
Yeah. And knowing like what are you, one of the things I ask like my clients or people that I talk to is always like, well, what is your expectation? Right? Like, so we know, like, what are you expecting from it? Well, I'm expecting to be pain free. Okay, so then what's your pain at right now? And then here, medicate, and then in 15 minutes, assess it. In 30 minutes, assess it. Where's your pain levels? And then you're really being almost in, you become more in tune with your body, right? Slowly, as you keep medicating for these things, especially people new to cannabis, because there's so many people that are new like to cannabis and they have no idea which way is up, like they just go in and they're taking all these 100 milligram gummies and having, black hole experiences and stuff. And like, this is cannabis. It's like, well, that doesn't have to be, but knowing where you start, but what are your expectations of it? Because some people think like they're like, well, how do I know it's working? Well, what are you trying to use it for? What is the symptom that you're trying to reduce for the moment or whatever it is? So I love that. I love that you've got that mindfulness with it. I think that's so dope. It's so important.
Spirituality is another thing that kind of came into the last few years. That came with mushrooms, an accidental.
Mhm.
I hate to tell you, it's like a holistic medicine. Uh, yeah, that came from a silly, my bad, not converting wet to dry weight, I guess. And it unlocked a lot of shit. it uh, it was a heavy
Oh,
night, but it was life changing.
oh my gosh. No, so you got the dose the universe knew you needed. That's what happened. That's exactly what happened.
It, I can buy into that these days. I can definitely buy into that these days. Yeah, I did. I took a lot away from that night as far as spirituality, um, angel numbers come into play at that time.
Mhm.
A lot of things changed that whole night, and it would led me on a path that I wouldn't turn back on for anything, for sure.
I love that for you so much. I'm a huge advocate for plant medicine that includes mushrooms, including psilocybin, and other mushrooms as well. So I love that. If especially in cities um, where it's decriminalized and they actually have like ceremonies you can attend with someone, it can be so healing. And like you said, like like really deep areas of yourself. And it is a nice, it is a nice, and it is a nice release. Do you ever microdose?
All the time ever since. Yeah, that stuff helped me out a lot, man. And I suggest it for most people that have, I talk, that's another thing I kind of talk about a lot, man. I think as things have been really fucked up lately, the pandemic, the digital age being pushed on us, I think it's really appropriate and it's slightly weird that cannabis has been pushed into the forefront again with holistic and mushrooms, again drawing people back to more homeopathic remedies, getting them, there's more and more people now that I talk to in the cannabis industry that want to go back. And most people want to go backwards. They want to get themselves, as I heard you say earlier, that piece of land. They want to just be able to provide for themselves and help others. And you know what I mean? They're
Yeah.
tired of the digital bullshit. And I think it's weird, like I said, it's no coincidence that
Self-sustaining.
cannabis is being pushed into that forefront and drawing people in many ways. I think of organics and pulls a lot of people in the experience with mushrooms, but I I think cannabis in itself is a spirit medicine or a spirit plant medicine, basically. Uh as I've again been turned on through this experience. I've read into more like forest bathing books and like mindfulness, spirit plant medicine, and stuff like that. And I've kind of learned to view cannabis as like a spirit plant medicine. I think it's how you when you would walk through a forest and kind of like choose that healing plant. You know what I mean? It doesn't necessarily, you're not out, you shouldn't be anyway, running through and oh, this is the one I need. It should be a mindful process, right? Am I wrong?
Yeah.
I'm
Yeah.
again, I'm still in this learning process
I
where it should call out to you and you bond, right? Through
mm-hmm.
plant spirit medicine. So
Yeah.
I think we have that relationship with cannabis. As we smell those jars, we're
Mm.
we're looking for that relationship, and that one hits us. That's your medicine. We just made a deal. You know what I mean? I
Like the
think,
nose
yeah, I don't
knows,
know.
right? The nose knows what
Yeah,
the body needs 100%. We have to trust that.
sure.
But a lot of people don't trust that. They're not in tune with their body, right? They're not in tune with what the body needs. But a lot of times they're coming to cannabis for that. So that's such a good point to make, is like to the terpenes, the profile, smell it, take it in, and really ingest it, and you'll know which one speaks to you.
So I guess it's a hard read when you get people come to you and like are first time cannabis users. Like you said, I understand what's your intention? Where do you want to be? But sometimes it's not always that easy. The
Right.
prescription could be more for, and then I didn't realize that, like, again, that's either like the power of juicing of cannabis, just the leaves. I've heard great shit about that. So how do you encourage? No, 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 no. Trust me. You don't even want to eat that yet. Go get you some leaves and juice some things. And you know what I mean? How do you know,
So
set them on their path?
for every person, it's always different, because it's like, what are your resources, right? So because I coach nationally, there's a lot of states that have different resources. Like Louisiana didn't even have the sell of flower until January. They only had cartridges. So when you're they can't get edibles, they can't get flower, they could only get vape cartridges. It's hard to help give a regimen, right? So you have to incorporate, again, plant medicine. And I always include diet. How to include diet, because this is our second brain, and this is how we really heal the body. And the number one source for chronic illness is inflammation, and we can reduce the symptoms of that through the gut. So we go through this journey of the mind. My program is called Mind Body Bong. So we start with mindset, right? The intention. What's the body work that needs to be done? Movement. Is there any diet change? Any supplements that need to be taken, perhaps, to help boost the benefits of cannabis, so you get a full entourage effect? And then, like, the whole, like, here's how to layer it. So I ask them, like, what their resources are. Not everybody even has access to fresh cannabis leaves. So my number one resource for that is like go hemp, right? It can go hemp or go home, but go hemp. If you can get it, you can get your hands on hemp much easier right now because it's legal in all 50 states. So I always say to start with hemp, anything high CBG, high CBD, and like you said, blend it up. You can use it on salads. You can juice it. I really might like. I used to feed it to my chickens because it's so high in omega fatty acids, which is great for the eggs. So there's a different tons of different ways that you can utilize cannabis. I saw someone actually bread and fry some fan leaves. And I questioned in my head if the nutrients in that were then completely degraded. What what do you think?
Yeah, well, isn't that for everything though? I mean, foods, the more we cook it, the more we burn off, the nutrition. So it's
Yeah.
better left, as
Yeah.
left cooked as possible.
I just didn't think it was a good like health advertisement. I was like, I mean, that looks delicious, some crunchy fan leaves, but I think the nutrients are pretty much toast after that. So, but mixing it with like a nice cucumber, pear, and pineapple juice is a great way to help heal the gut for things like Crohn's, even acid reflux. You don't even have to have a lot of fan leaves or a lot of hemp. You can just do like those little grass shots, right? You can just do a little cannabis shot first thing in the morning. Really helps heal the gut and start that inflammation healing process. But it's have you ever tried raw cannabis leaves or juice them?
I have not. I have ate a leaf or two.
Okay. What was your
I'm
thought?
not.
Ate the leaf.
It was bitter. It was
Yeah.
bitter.
Yeah. So I love pairing it with cucumber because that's very hydrating and it's a nice, crisp, clean, like finish. And then pear and pineapple juice. You can, if you don't want to juice those, just get the juice in a can, whatever. Take the shortcuts where you need them. Okay. Don't make the excuses, take the shortcuts. But it makes it a little bit sweeter to like offset that. So I love that little combo. And you can even add ginger if you want to add a little ginger and spice it up. Ginger is great at boosting, again, in like an entourage with cannabis. It helps keep the healing properties going. It just, cannabis is an amplifier of this. Anything that's also anti-inflammatory, they're just like buddies. They just pair up in your system and go to healing, which I love.
Inflammation is definitely one of the biggest enemies that we have uh, for multiple reasons. It gets worse and worse for a lot of us as we get older, but I think it's hitting younger people these days as
Mhm.
well. Uh, Again, because of a lot of the bullshit that we swim through every day. These electronics and signals and whatnot. Again, I'm as deep into the organics I have dove lately. I have dove into the spiritual side of things in multiple ways. And then they kind of weirdly collided one day with with the thought of like earthing the whole
Ah,
earthing process I've kind of been revisiting as well. And again, in the inflammation and kind of being able to ground that negative energy out of us has made a lot of sense. And I've made a lot of people kind of smile that know me lately because of being barefooted in so many weird places lately doing shit I probably shouldn't be doing barefooted, but I've been doing barefoot. But
isn't
I'm
it
like, I'm
great though?
becoming more and more of a believer.
Isn't it so great though? Like, so one of the things I love about that is that you're really grounding that root chakra when you're doing a grounding exercise. So that's providing you a sense of safety and security within the body, within the spirit. So grounding is one of I love that. I actually have like, so I take, this is going to sound silly, but I take pictures of my feet every time I'm grounding, and I have like all these different locations that I've like grounded myself. Do you do that? Do you take pictures of your feet when you're grounding, or is that just a me thing?
Well, I have once or twice, but for completely different reasons, I guess.
Okay.
Definitely. Because, well, I guess, yes, I was having fun doing what I'm doing, but tops of my feet are also tattooed. And
Nice.
so I that was kind of placed some of the reasons why I was taking foot tattoos.
I love
So
it. I love it. See,
partly yes, partly yes.
I love it. Yeah. I love the grounding exercises are always really healing. And again, cannabis plays a big role in that, you know. The whole purpose is balance and homeostasis. So when you're out there doing your grounding, you know, cannabis is working in your body to help, like you said, release that negativity. And when you release that, you make room and you expand for more. So I love that you're like getting in touch with the spiritual side.
I'm starting to wonder actually what the people passers by may think because again, getting more into the hippier side or not even just caring anymore, I guess. You know what I mean? Just letting go. That's another
Mm,
process, another book I've just the process of letting go.
yeah.
Um a lot of times, as I talked about, if it's a beautiful day, I really like to kick my shoes off, roll one, and there's sand and dirt out there, and I like to and again, rocks. I'm more into stones these days. I try to
Mhm.
keep one at least on me and every day. So I'm smoking and I'm running my feet through the dirt or the sand, and I'm like trying to like kick rocks up or and I'm done. So I'm having like a little treasure hunt as I'm out there smoking. Yeah.
I love it.
Ooh. So I usually come in with a pocket full of rocks, and I got a little app on my phone now. I'm like, what are these?
Your little pile. I love that. I love that. Because I love that you're connecting again, like rooting yourself with nature. It's okay to be spiritual. It's okay. It's all right. I think there's a lot of misconception about uh getting in touch with yourself and getting in touch with nature. Like there's nothing wrong with it. It's completely, we've been so detached. You were talking about chronic illness and the younger generation. The last couple of years with the pandemic, there's been such a rise in chronic illness. And I think it's because the stress levels, our cortisol levels are so high. And cannabis helps with that so much, helps reduce stress, it helps reduce cortisol levels within the body, which then can also help you reduce like excess weight, at the same time that you've been holding on to because of it. So, but it's taking that all of it in one. That's why a lot of people use it as a crutch, but it really is a multi-dimensional tool. It's really all of these different ways that it's supporting the body, supporting the system. And I love that you're like discovering, like I said, this a whole another side of yourself. It's really dope.
Appreciate that. It's a fun process, rediscovering. It is. Letting go. That's another thing that I've learned. I talk about that, the experience as well as I've learned in the organics part of things and started kind of learning more and more about the microbes, the shit that's going on in the soil, in the relationship with it's actually the same that's going in our gut. It's
Mhm.
the same process. So that was another like huge aha moment for me. So I don't know. I just started, yeah, it's a huge process, you know. There's I can relate, kind of
Yeah.
scroll down that a little bit.
Yeah.
Um,
I like that you were talking about the nutrients in this soil though, because that is
definitely
so
scroll.
important. That's definitely one of the things that I talk to like share with people as well is knowing your grow, knowing the grower if you can, right? At least Google them, at least what are their grow practices and or what does this dispensary know about it? But like do they, a lot of times they share, I love it on social media when growers share how they grow, like thank you for sharing how you grow, because then I know like okay, this is something that I would recommend, this is something that I would trust. But knowing what's in the soil is so important because like you said, we're ingesting it as medicine. So we need to make sure that it's interacting in the body as medicine and not toxic, right?
So what type of people are ailments, I guess, are coming to you? What are people coming to you with, I guess, are the most common? And I guess what are the ages that you're seeing come to you for
I have a
coaching with cannabis?
I have a pretty broad age range. Like honestly, some early 20s, young people who feel like they are using normally like because I'm 37, so I say young people. Um, but they're like, I want to learn how to use it as a medicine. Like they feel like as if they're over utilizing it and not getting the results that they want, but they're not quite sure how to get the results that they want. But the majority is around my age range, and then 60s. A lot of people come to me with pain. They want to manage pain and they want to manage habits. So how do you stay balanced throughout the day? Like if I have to medicate moms that are like, I have to take care of my kids, but I can't be smoking around them all day. How are you doing this? And how to incorporate it in a healthy manner. So because I really talk about habits, mindset, body work, and balancing medicine, plant medicine, it's usually people that are done with the traditional healthcare system. They're like, I'm at my wit's end. I don't know what to do, or that one gummy they're taking every day is just not cutting it anymore. So they want to completely change their routine. They want to learn how to build those healthy foundations using plant medicine as a tool.
So in the instance for pain, I guess, where do you start off with them? Do you suggest them more on the edible side, or do you suggest flower consumption first, or dabs? I guess
So
that's a fair add-on.
yeah, so I have pain every single day, and one of the things I recommend is always a tincture. So start your day with a tincture. I put mine in my medicine cabinet. It's right next to my toothbrush. So I have a little lineup of things I use every single morning. And that's one of them. My tincture, I'm using that every single morning. I'm activating my endocannabinoid system. It's waking itself up, right? Because I've been resting, and whatever cannabinoids were in my system from my nighttime medicine are not there anymore. And it's starting to heal the gut. It's starting to lower those pain receptors naturally. So then from there, I love medicating my granola. That's one of my favorite ways. I do like parfaits for a snack or eat some granola for breakfast. Something that is easy. You can medicate olive oil, you can do eggs. I mean, it's just like there's so many different things. So, really starting from from there, I got lost on a goose chase. This fly is just flying around. I don't know if you can see it. It's fucking with me. but starting with a tincture and then teaching them how to like layer through the day with the medicines. Like tincture and RSO are my biggest thing for pain receptor, because you can reduce a lot of the pain receptors through the gut. So you're not removing the pain, but you're just like silencing the receptor of it. It's not taking the pain away. You're just not feeling it. If that makes sense.
It does. It does. That's another. I'm telling you, that's a place again. The kombachas, stuff like that. That was a big eye opening for me. And again, through that soil process there, the microbes, realizing what was going on in my gut, what I was actually feeding that shit was a huge wake up for me, because I find that even, most things feed off sugars. Yes, yes, yes. But it's what type of sugars that you put into your gut. So I noticed that after I was like replenishing my gut biome with a nice kombucha, if I indulged in a lot of like white sugars, I was just turning around feeding all the bad stuff in there instead of the good stuff I just replenished with. And it was again a kind of revolving door. So I had to cut out a lot of the white sugars before I could actually get things back in check with my gut.
Right. Right. Because so removing the sugar automatically reduces inflammation. Dairy, alcohol, refined grains, fried foods, sugar, like those are some of the biggest causes of inflammation within the body. So reducing them or eliminating them from the diet, but also finding ways to replace it. So I have a free resource on my website. It's a grocery list, and it's 100% low inflammation food. So this is something that all my clients get. Anybody can get it, but it's something that you can look at and say, okay, I can go to this section, replace all my sugars with these options. And I don't know about you, but I love to infuse my honey. I use honey on a lot of things. And I infuse my honey a lot of times with my keef. I'll just throw my keef into the little, I have a Levo and I fill the little thing, I save up all my keef and I put it in there, and then I infuse it with the honey or with the agave, and I use that almost every single day. So activating with a natural sugar, something that's not going to be as inflammatory within the body, but using those low inflammation foods together with cannabis is just a powerhouse move. Like it just really does heal the gut.
I think do you like to read for happen chance? I don't suggest a lot of books, but seeing how that you're getting thinking about getting back into the growing side of things, I think it would be a fun book for you. There's a book called The Dirt Cure that kind of talks a lot about what you're discussing here, the gut biome, and that's where actually a lot of your problems start right there. And then actually in the beginning of the book, she talks about, she's like 90% of my patients are shocked when they come in and I want to talk first and foremost about their shit.
Right? Right?
But
Oh,
I don't know. As a new grower, I think I don't know. And somebody that's already kind of interested in the subject, I think you may really like that book.
yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah. I need to get that. I need to put that on my list, because seriously, and that's so funny you say that, because a lot of my clients will follow me like on social media, and then when they become a client, and you have to ask, like, one of the questions is like, are you having healthy bowel movements? Because that's such a huge key indicator on how healthy the body is. How is it functioning? And they're like, like, I don't want to talk to you about that. I'm like, I'm a health coach. Like, it's what I do. It's totally normal, don't stress it. But really, the gut, I didn't realize how, I knew I was sick, but I didn't realize that so much of the symptoms and like the level of the intensity of all my symptoms really stemmed back to my gut. So really learning that, like you said, I mean, it changed my life. And, you know, it, gosh, thousands of other people. I mean, every day people are learning more and more about how to balance their gut, for more balanced wellness. So what's I'm curious, because I'm curious, what is like your favorite like health benefit that like you've received through cannabis, you think?
Hmm. There's too many to be honest with you. I guess it boils back to something you said earlier. It's kind of relates back to intent, realistically. I found cannabis has helped me in a lot of ways. Edibles, most definitely for pain. I find that there's that barrier. And the funny thing about edibles, uh, we talked about a little bit like the effects on it. Most people that tell me that edibles don't affect them, I kind of go, ooh, you might want to check with a doctor because I really believe that the body is not turning it into that Delta 11 and letting them get high. It's like turning it into all this, holy shit, you need it down here for pain, inflammation. You're not getting high today, buddy. And I think that's a little bit for like edibles for me. Like a couple of days in, I get past that first day, I kind of get a buzz. Second day, I can have a little bit of a hangover, but march through. Third day, man, I feel like a young kid again. I'm like out there, I can do, I'm almost probably overdoing it. You know what I mean? I'm feeling
Do
too
you
good on it.
dose
And
your own edibles?
oh no, I eat. I no, that's terrible about edibles. I can overconsume. I make mine very heavy. uh yeah. But yeah, I'm honest. I like
I
my
love it.
cannabis.
Yeah.
And
So I'm a
so
big
in other
microdose.
ways too. Oh, I'm sorry, go ahead. You please they listen to me all the time. You're a big
No,
microdoser.
I just saying I'm a big microdoser. So that's why I'm curious, because I will make like a whole pan of brownies, but they're microdosed. I do like a gluten-free, dairy-free, vegan brownie that's really, really good.
Oh, and
And
now you got me about 300 pounds because I'm eating a plate full of brownies all day.
no, right, no, but like they're gluten-free, they're low inflammation, but they're also microdosed. So that's what I like about them, is that you can easily. So I'm totally opposite. Okay, so go ahead though. So you're high dose, which is absolutely okay.
I do. When I make butter and stuff like that, I do like, I'd rather eat a little and get that big bang, I guess. But it never works out that way because I, I I take the stupid route, I guess, with it. I'm gonna make a super butter, but I'm gonna make some really good treats that I'm gonna eat all day. You know, it, it
See,
never.
see,
I just get tore up. But
that's
as
why
far
I
as
microdose.
medical impacts, RSO. Again, you're gonna be like, you use cannabis in a lot of weird ways, Eagle. And but like, I have found like I have a lot of tattoos, before a sitting, an RSO, a dose of RSO prior to my sitting. helps
Yeah.
with pain 100%. And I really believe aids in the healing process. I find
Oh,
it speeded up the time quite a bit. So, I don't know. It's
I'm a
endless,
big,
really.
I'm a big believer in RSO. So I actually suffered a massive brain injury December 28th. I flew in from Florida to Oklahoma and was picking up my daughter from Christmas vacation and fainted and hit my head on just the ground, just like the concrete, and busted my skull all the way open across the back. And I ended up using RSO because they were going to prescribe me pain pills, and I did not want the pain pills. So I ended up reaching out to my community, and I was like, listen, I can't, this is what's going on. I have a massive or head injury. And anyway, RSO saved me, like saved my life 100%. And not only for the pain, I was able to sleep because I had hurt my ribs, and I just like basically back flopped onto the concrete. So everything was bruised. So the healing process, I couldn't have done it without my RSO. There's no way. There's absolutely no way.
That's holy cow, that's a hell of an injury. So I guess my next question would be what is your response from the medical community when you tell them that you do not want, pain pills or whatever,
Mm.
that you're going to consume cannabis? Because in my experience, it's shitty after that point. Well,
Yeah.
what's your experience?
Yeah. So I the gentleman in the emergency room, I told him, I said, listen, I have previous addiction to pain pills, and I don't want that. I said, listen, I'm going to just medicate with cannabis. And he was like, okay, whatever. And he wrote me a prescription anyway for Tylenol. And he was like, just in case you change your mind, here's another option. And I never filled it. I didn't have a need to fill it. But he literally rolled his eyes at me and was like, just whatever. Now, when I was trying to get off my prescriptions, and trying to find a doctor that would work with me, knowing I was utilizing cannabis, that was a challenge. And that was also scary because I thought, oh my gosh, are they going to report me to CPS? Like I was worried that there would be a doctor I'd run across that wouldn't approve, and I don't know. That's always a worry in my head when you're talking to a medical professional about something that people may disagree on. But I did find a doctor that was willing to work with me, and he was so helpful. Um, and he was proud of like when I finally left his office the very last time and I was off my last prescription. And he was like, all right. He was like, you're healthy. He's like, see you later. And it was a long journey to get off those prescriptions, but he was there monitoring my heart, my blood, my blood pressure, and took it very seriously. He was more intrigued to see how it would help me and if it would help me. So it was a really fun learning experience together. So you have to find the right healthcare provider because there are people out there that will support you on your journey. And I do recommend that to everyone, to like let your healthcare provider know that you do medicate with cannabis because it can interact with some of your medications, especially if there's a medication that says like do not consume grapefruit. You have to steer clear of like isolates because those two things can interact together. You can get less of your prescription. So you have to make sure you have these clear conversations with your doctor when you are using cannabis. Like, don't be afraid. Like, stand up for your wellness.
Awesome answer, man. Awesome answer. Um, I guess that's mine. I want to pick your brain because I've heard you mention the isolates there. How often and why would you prescribe, if you will, uh somebody for dabs. I, I'm becoming less and less advocate for them, to be honest with you, as I'm looking back at their history.
Okay. 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 I'm interested about that. Um, I think dabbing is a great way to get a lot of cannabinoids quickly through inhalation, right? You can take an easy dip device, take your concentrate, hit it, and that's like you just smoked a whole joint for some people, you know. So for high pain users, for sometimes people who anxiety, depression, who need higher cannabinoid intake quicker. That's normally what I would recommend, but I wouldn't recommend dabbing to anyone who has not had experience with cannabis yet because it'll knock you on your ass if you're not careful.
So I guess why on my end is again, there's a few reasons. Uh, one, I've seen a lot of people go down first times, blood pressure spikes, not necessarily ready for the high, or their body just isn't ready for that shock of the intensity of what just happened. Moreover, I've seen, and this again, this is speculation more than anything. You know what I mean? More in the younger generation, anxiety and dabs at ups and downs, creating more of a side effect problem. To where I think because of the process, the things that would allow that high to stay in your systems, the fats, the lipids, and shit are being stripped out through the hydrocarbon side. So again, you've got that up, down, when instead of that, maybe a hash, you know what I mean? Like I'm smoking the nice bubble where it's all still kind of in there. It's gonna hang out, be a long-term medicine versus that I can see it, you know what I mean? If say like it's the start of the pain. Oh my God. Ah,
Mhm.
I just need it so I walk, you know what I mean? But in the meantime, again, maybe a couple second hits or a follow-up with some hash or something, or even an edible, something that's going to stay in the system for a little bit longer. I'm worried about not only that is I've seen the rigs, you know what I mean? The
Mhm.
pieces that you smoke out of, what's left on them pipes, and what actually you have to do to clean a rig scares me. You know what I mean? When I consume this, I can actually can see what's going to end up in my lungs. That oil as it comes down, it might be a little resin, a little bit of tar, but it's soft.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
soft. I think my body is going to do something with that. And so I'm honestly worried about people that have to depend on them dabs, that back all the time, are going to develop respiratory issues in the long run.
I don't see, and I feel that if you are continuing a routine and not getting the results that you want, if you're medicating at a high rate and you're still not feeling well, then that's not a wellness routine. Like that's a crutch and it's not working, right? It's like it's only half working for you. You're only half getting there. So that's to me, when I look at something like that, I'm like, this person needs other layering methods. If they, you know, if that's what they want, if that's what they desire. Of course, when people come to me, they want to know how to balance, right? And dabbing is definitely not something that I recommend for someone right off the bat. Like I said, I'm very much like go low and slow every 3 days. You need to be checking in with yourself. You have a journal, blah, blah, blah. Um, but dabbing is I've like you said, people go down, and with anxiety, that's another thing is the cannabis is an amplifier. So that also includes, like, if you're on medication, if there's a side effect on there, it can increase the chances of that side effect, right? So if you're on a blood pressure medication that helps lower your blood pressure, well, cannabis already helps lower blood pressure. So now you've got two things working for you. And that's when I've seen people faint, right? Because sometimes it's in a cannabis to prescription interaction. And how do you handle that? You know, what happens and how do you avoid that? How do you honestly, like, how do you avoid that? And it's really, you have to know, again, your prescriptions, work with your doctor, but like know your body and medicate. I always medicate low and slow.
Man, I seen probably the best, most beautiful go down from a dab that I've ever seen at the last event. And it wasn't, I've seen people go down, I've seen people pass right out. But this lady had wandered up and took that dab, and she took a step back and she knelt down, and she literally was kind of like, and her eyes were so big, and she had this just amazing smile on her face, and then we all kind of rushed over. You okay? And she just she held it in too. She was all like, just the biggest smile, like she was
Oh my god.
looking into the beautiful sunlight. You all right? And she's like, yes. Yes. But
She's
it
like,
was
it worked. It worked. My plan worked. Now, like, I've seen people get like overstimulated where all of it, like, they have to lay down because they get this, like, the spinnies, you know, everything around them just starts spinning and they're like, and they can't hold it together. So I've seen seen both, which is unfortunate.
So I guess we haven't even talked, I guess, strains yet. Are there in particular strains that you suggest, or how do you go about that aspect of coaching?
So it's really hard to say, in my opinion, look for these specific strains because, again, what's available to you, right? So I'm always asking, well, what's available? Because sometimes it changes, menus change all the time. I used to go to this dispensary that always had the strain that I loved. Well, the grow stopped growing it. They're not going to grow it anymore. So they don't have it. So it's knowing terpene profile, in my opinion, over, because you can go in and say, I'm looking for something that's high in this, high in this, and high in this. In, you know, any quantities or whatever, any percentages, but I need to have like these main terpenes. And then they can look, I don't know about where you're at, but our testing, you can have you can see the full terpene profile. So a lot of times they'll have the terpene profile on the product and you can see which strains from there, because, you know, a lot of people are making their own names in things like that. So it's hard to say specifically hunt for one thing, and if they can't find it, what are they, just shit out of luck? No, no.
This is a good question, I guess. As a coach, that stuff can be very confusing for a lot of new consumers. I've talked about I would like to see them take a mandatory video course, I guess. If you're like you wander into a new town or you're not dealing with the same people, you know, in a new store, okay, well, you have to go sit in the booth and watch the video, or you have to sign I don't give a shit paperwork, you know what I mean?
Right, right.
I don't care, just give me the medicine. Uh,
You have
yeah.
two doorways, two doorways: education, fucking, I don't give a shit. That's what you need.
So, I mean, and they play such a big role, the terpenes, as we've kind of talked about, and we've lost that ability to make that plant spirit medicine. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And again, the whole medical side versus recreational side is a whole that's a whole nother line with me, because I think we're really losing touch of the medical side, the powerful side, of cannabis.
Yeah.
So as we're losing the ability to handle cannabis in a lot of ways, and now it's coming pre-packaged, consumers can't even smell, make that relationship, as we talked about, you know what I mean?
Mhm.
We made this deal. How do you relate terpenes and numbers into you're gonna make that spirit plant medicine with this number? There's, you know what I
Like,
mean? It's sad. They should have at least have a fucking scratch and sniff or something.
I
I don't know. This one might work. I mean,
so
they can do it with perfumes. Why can't we do it with cannabis?
okay, so do you think, because I've like these are like little ideas, right? So I've thought about a I feel like dispensaries should have a digital program that they can type in top three terpenes for a strain that maybe someone's looking for, maybe even just top two, right? Doesn't matter. And then it'll tell you all of those strains, or what are the most common ones with those high terpenes. But I feel like there's not a great database. I feel like I feel, and maybe I'm wrong in this, but I feel like it's still building itself, because even when you Google, I have a lot of people that are like, I can't find information on Google, or it doesn't say on Leafly what the terpene profile is because the information's not there. They're still finding a lot of gaps in, like you said, how do you find that? How do you know? So in our state, they have to have the terpene profiles, the testing. They have to tell you how many terpenes are in it, and a lot of them do a full panel on there. Um, but how do you like relate it and teach it? Just like you're doing right here on this amazing show, educating people by talking about it and sharing it. Social media is a very strong powerhouse for education, and being able to have an open conversation about it, I think, is exactly is how people find wellness, right? And resources, and you can Google it, you can look it up, ask ask for the grower, ask for the testing. Um, don't be afraid to ask for your medicine. Walgreens even does a pharmacist consultation with you if you're not sure about your prescription. So you should be able to have that same trust in your dispensary and your bud tender to say, like, okay, well, what's the terpene profile and what are the known effects of those terpenes? And I feel the bud tender should be educated in that as well.
I do too. I do too. So what are the most common, most effective terpenes that I guess you've come across or you've seen be the most beneficial?
Caryophyllene and limonene. So caryophyllene, because it is high anti-inflammatory, which, as we've discussed several times, is wonderful for reducing inflammation in the gut. So this is often also found in other herbs and spices like cloves and cinnamon. So you can actually combine it in food. Like I do, like avocado toast with medicated agave, and you boost all of these natural terpenes that are found in our food with the medicine. And then limonene is the second one. And this is really stimulating, but it's not overstimulating like sometimes pinene can be. And a lot of people are allergic to pine trees. So they find that it actually causes inflammation and sometimes breathing issues. So that's something, and terpinolene, because it's got some pinene in it. So those are some of them, but caryophyllene, limonene, top two that I recommend finding strains. That's why I really love Golden Goat so much, because it's got that nice balance in terpenes.
I like very educated answer. I'm liking this interview more.
I nerd out on cannabis. Like when I tell you I love this medicine, I wanted to know why. I wanted someone to come up to me and be like, "Oh my god, you smoke weed or whatever," and I could easily be like, "Yes, absolutely." And also, did you know that a lot of the foods that we eat, including citrus and herbs and spices, are also found in the cannabis sativa plant? And here's how they work together. And I just love breaking that stigma and showing the healing properties. So I do nerd out on it. So thank you for letting me nerd out with you on cannabis.
Oh, I appreciate it. And I'm sure a lot of people in chat are taking a lot from this as well. So I guess how do people kind of hold the view about being working with them
So
with being coached, I guess.
I have a website, the bohohealthcoach.com, and I offer 3 different ways that you can work with me. So I have a summer session that actually starts on Monday. And enrollment for that ends tomorrow, unfortunately. But then I do one-on-one, like 90-minute alignment, right? So life alignment consultation where we talk about your goals. You get a plan, everything from mindset, body work to medicine, all recommendations, easy for you to follow. And we really dive deep into what are you seeking from the medicine? What are you seeking in your life? And then excuse me, I host my fall education, which is 90 days every single year. And this is the Mind Body Bong program. So it's super in depth, 2 weeks working on mindset, getting into a growth mindset, which is super awesome because of growing, right? Body work, and then bong medicine. And I've got experts coming in talking about soil, why it's important that if you're growing, that you use proper nutrients. And one of the things that I say is if you're feeding your plants better nutrients than you're feeding yourself, like you have a problem, because you should be feeding yourself. You should be taking the same care of yourself that you're taking care of those plants. You are just as important. And a lot of times people forget that. So those are the 3 ways, or that's the way you can get a hold of me. Those are the 3 ways that you can work with me one-on-one.
I think it's awesome that you pointed that out because I think that's funny. I've seen that a lot through listen to people's cannabis journeys, and I've seen it without necessarily even hearing it as they dig deeper and deeper and wanting to. And I said it earlier, as far as like when you cultivate the plant, you cultivate a better person. It's true because as that through you go through that process, and I kind of hinted to earlier, you start making that same thing. You know what I mean? That connection. It's all the same shit. It's all the same shit. Oh, and now I remember earlier what I spaced out when I wanted to say about when I ventured into that micro realm. When I seen that, that there's so much going on in your body that how they control things through the soil, how plants probably communicating through the microbes one way. They are definitely a second brain. It was an aha moment for me. Made me feel super small. That's when that kind of the letting go feeling kind of set in. You know what I mean? And I started actually reading into books about letting go. But as I, again, seeking more into wanting to do better with the plan, I find 100% people do make that correlation as they go through. Oh, wow, I can do this with my soil and make it better. And it makes holy shit. I should be doing this with my vegetables and making them more nutritionally dense. And people actually, it's a slippery slope. They go from, yeah, and that's you. It seems to be that tipping point. You know what I mean? Where there's no
Yes.
return, you know what I mean? But
Do you
it's
find
super strong.
that sense, that aha moment for yourself, that it's been also resonating like with other aspects of your life, like with food?
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. Like I mentioned a second ago, is I seen that how nutriently deficient a lot of the foods that we eat are
Yeah.
minerally. You know what I mean? How the soils lack so much, and then how much we were doing for our plants there. Yeah, I've definitely seen that correlation that, we could be growing more and more healthier foods for ourselves, that they are depleted of a lot more of the nutrients that should be there. You know what I mean?
They're
Naturally there.
naturally using like an natural living soil, right?
Yes.
Yeah. Yeah. So I'm curious, just want to pick your brain with your grow, because I'm unfamiliar and I apologize, but like tell me about like your soil. Like how do you feed your soil?
Right now, I am learning through microbes and stuff like that. I'm learning the compost process and more top feeding and stuff like that. I knew microbes were a big part of the process in general, but making things available through them, through the breaking down process, it's all change. You know what I
Mhm.
mean? Everything has an action and reaction. So you have to kind of make everything there and keep a good balance. As far as inputs, uh, you have to learn, what goes into the process. Obviously, the more natural things that we can put in there, the better, or alfalfas, seaweeds, stuff like that, you know. Uh,
Yeah.
I'm still learning as I go, you know. Like I said, this was a process to me that before it was more uh follow simple recipes, crack meals, this, that, mix it, let it sit and cook. But now I'm trying to learn deeper into sustainability, how I can keep that soil alive and running and reuse.
I
That end
love
of it, I'm still getting deeper into. Uh
yeah. I love that so
it's
much.
not as Go ahead, please.
No, I just love it so much with learning about living soil. I've seen so many people who are starting their own even backyard gardens that are doing the same thing. They're learning, they're expanding, right? I think we're in this new phase of an awakening. A lot of people are awakening to holistic medicine, to growing their own food, to like they're just awakening to the fact that we are being poisoned. And how can we reverse that? How can we slow that down? How can we stop that process? And it comes back to nutrients, comes back to soil. And so keeping that living soil. And I feel, at least I see a ton of people, even not in the cannabis industry, that are doing this and diving into living soil and why it's so beneficial. And it, to me, I think it's so beautiful that we are not just breaking this stigma, but I'm actually seeing more of a social change, more of a public change, with people being proud to show off, like, oh, look, I'm doing this for my garden, or I have this for my grow. And I've seen people making their compost teas, on TikTok. And the best way is to do small compost if you live in an apartment. It's like there's so much more education out there for wellness and how to be sustainable, like you said, and how to build the health from the root, from the actual, the soil and stuff.
Right now, right now. So do you think that you'll ever be brick and mortar to where like you could actually have people come and stay and you'd work with them on a, probably like a daily basis, trial and error. This is how you do, I
Yeah.
think that would be totally awesome.
So I actually started brick and mortar, and excuse me, when the pandemic hit, I was located inside of a spa. So I was inside of a wellness spa. I was their holistic, the cannabis coach, and then they had other people that were there on offering their services as well. So when COVID hit, the first thing to shut down was hospital, like extra services, right? So spas were closed. I was open, I believe, for 6 weeks, and I got shut down. And so, at first it was like, oh, it's just going to be 2 weeks quarantine. And after that, it turned into more. And then I was told, well, we don't think the spa is going to reopen. So I went 100% virtual. And that's why I went virtual, was because everybody was home and I wanted to be a resource, for people, and I offer ganja yoga and workouts and sessions and stuff like that. So it was a way to connect with community during that time. And I would love to go back to brick and mortar, which is where the land comes in. So my ultimate goal is to have this land and have this wellness retreat where people can come out and they can eat the food that's there. It's a farm to table type of retreat. They can learn everything, right? From the soil, seed, uh, to eating, right? So I that's the goal. That's the absolute goal, is to be back into a location, but just have a different vision for it, not to be in a spa.
I can appreciate that 100%. 100%. I think that's super cool and a great utilization of cannabis, to be honest with you. Uh, a kind of somewhat shared dream, to be honest with you, in a different kind of way, honestly. Because as I've talked about several times, and I've said it many times on the air, I'm a huge advocate for cannabis in place of pharmaceutical drugs. There's a lot of lives lost there. But I've noticed as I've talked to more and more people, I believe that not just from a drug rehabilitation aspect, but for, PTSD,
Mhm.
recovering, just recovering in a lot of ways, people coming back from wars. I honestly think it just is a rehabilitation tool from coming out of jails, or like getting back into the scheme of life, you know what I mean?
Yeah,
Period.
yeah,
Cannabis could be utilized, and I would like to see, I've always said, some type of rehabilitation area set up, kind of like where you're talking about. It's you're bringing people in, you're teaching them or helping them wean off of whatever drugs or problems that they're going through with cannabis, if it's either through consumption of flower, RSO, whatever it takes to get through that process. And then the rebuilding of side through keeping them there once they're clean, and helping them rebuild through the cultivation of the plant. Because as you've kind of said and hinted to, and I know as far as I'm learning too, as you start to dig deeper into that plant, the cultivation side, guess because you haven't went as deep into it as yet. I guarantee you put some plants in there and you get a few grows under your belt, or even one grow under your belt, it is a super powerful thing. And I am not even kidding in that aspect. It is so therapeutical. And there's so much healing that can be done in the garden every day. So I believe as we help people, or I help people, whoever helps people get off of that end of it, and as they rebuild, because there is that rebuilding process.
yeah,
You have to learn to believe in yourself again. You have to learn how to
yeah,
believe others, people you have trust.
yeah,
You know what I mean? But
yeah,
as you cultivate that plant and you find out the relationship through the soil, it's a trial and error, and you're rebuilding yourself. I really believe that, some type of real rehabilitation camp like that through cannabis, even if it were if it couldn't be straight out cannabis, hemp, whatever, for
Yeah.
whatever reasons, you know what I mean? It would be a powerful thing. But I would honestly think, it's, as I've spoken to you tonight, it takes people, great people, to shoot holes in dreams, I guess, you know what I mean, or show sides that could be improved. And I think, yeah, honestly, that in that dream, it actually could include something like you're talking about. They need to learn how to eat properly as well, not just use it as a medicine, but there's other ways, healthier ways to bring yourself out of that rut, and you know what I
Yeah.
mean, rebuild.
Yeah.
So I think that dream, it lacks something like that. But I think it's
Mm,
awesome that
thank
you,
you.
you're headed in that direction. You know what I mean?
Thank
That
you.
the area that what you're talking about it sounds like a very powerful place. I hope the dream
Thank
comes to
you.
fruition very soon.
Thank
Because if
you.
I'm not
Yeah.
out there doing it, I'd like to see somebody else fucking doing it. That's for sure.
I love it. And you know what? I want to touch on when you were talking about diet real quick. You mentioned at the beginning of this that you cut out sugar, right? And when we think about our medicine, think about 99% of the medicine on the market right now is sugar based. So are we feeding the illness or are we feeding the wellness? Like it's almost canceling each other out when we're eating our medicine through sugary and inflammatory foods. It's you're in my opinion, I you're taking it with this, you're getting less bioavailability because it's fighting with what's in your gut, it's causing inflammation. And I noticed that as people become healthier, that their tolerance change, and when they start cutting out things that cause inflammation, their tolerance levels change again. And that's just through like the people that I've coached personally. They notice that, and I don't know if you've noticed this, but when you change your diet with cannabis, I think maybe you did mention on it, but did your utilization change?
It's it's been pretty much the same, for a long time.
Okay.
I yeah, I haven't let up. I just find my love for cannabis just be seems to be greater and greater, simply because I'm in a pretty good place to be in cannabis, I guess. Uh I have a never ending supply of genetics, you know what I mean? So smoking cannabis is always a pleasurable thing for me. I love to meet people, great people in the community, and I love to sit down and taste their cannabis because people are always very proud of their cannabis.
Yeah.
And there's, again, one of them things you spoke of earlier, and one thing I hated about the pandemic and legality, I guess, is how you're supposed to consume your own, joint. And I hate that. You
Mm,
know what I mean? I really do. I love that moment of sharing a joint with somebody. You know what
yeah.
I mean? You're in that moment. It's like a meal or whatever. You know what I mean? You're sharing something very powerful, and it's fun to hit it and pass and see their thoughts, or you know what I mean. It's just, I don't know. It's a special play. So yeah, I've never found a good reason to necessarily slow down. My consumption. I find more and more reasons to indulge, and I don't know. I love it.
Oh my gosh, I love it. Oh, I love it. I know that some people, they do notice a change. They notice that the way that you know it reacts with their body. Um, but then again, these are people that are like journaling their reactions and their responses, because they have a coach because they have someone that's asking them. So, you know, they're being more intentional. They're noticing the changes within the body and things like that. So, you know, I think that's maybe more why we're focused more on that. And, you know, proper dosing. Like you said, with your edibles, you're super better, you know, like learning how to like properly dose if you're going to make homemade edibles, I think is so important.
Shit, I'm right there with my good friend here in chat, the American one. That I have the mindset that cannabis is actually, it's not making me younger, but it's keeping me young. So I guess with that said, you know,
I love
lighten
it.
up on consumption. Never, never.
You're only as old as you feel, right? So, shit. I love that. Yeah.
So I guess, has your consumption let up as you've consumed? Have you consumed less as you're more knowledgeably or mindfully, you know, using cannabis, or do you just love it and you're just using it because it's a good pain medication? But you
Yeah.
know,
Yeah.
let's
So
be real.
I like to
We like the
define it
way it
as
makes
like,
us feel.
yeah, I like to define it as like focused use and like non-focused use, right? Because either one is going to provide my body with medical benefits, but one of them I'm actually being intentional, and the other one I'm probably just being social, or you know, I'm just being social with it, so it's unintentional. But I because I had such a massive like weight loss, I did notice that my like I didn't realize I consume a lot of cannabis, but compared to someone who is new, it looks like I consume a ton of cannabis because I'm consuming it all day, right? And so but I did find that I consume less now, but it's still a lot, if that makes sense. Like it was a lot more before, and it's not as much anymore. But like I feel like my tolerance is, I mean, I get buzzed, I feel it, I love it, you know. I think probably pretty easy now. But here's the other thing: when we're talking about cannabis as a tool, I've also used it during my healing journey. So I've healed a lot of the reasons mentally on why I was using cannabis. And so I've also had a lot of less like triggers in my life for like, I have like PTSD sleepwalking episodes, which I'm so glad doesn't happen now that I sleep 5 feet off the ground. Oh my gosh. But it helps me, you know, maintain that. So it's just different. I don't, there's a lot less triggering episodes, so I don't have to medicate as much. My body becomes more balanced for me quickly. And I feel the effects of edibles very quickly. You know, so I don't want to say I'm a lightweight, but I medicate a lot throughout the day.
So I guess curiosity myself and others, because I think people would confuse cannabis to being a negative side to weight loss. So
Yeah.
how did it help throughout your process? I mean, I think that when people think about cannabis and weight loss, I think they would go negative, negative, because I think they think, hey, it brings in the munchies, and again, I think they would think consumption would just, I don't want to get up and work out, but I don't
Right.
think that's true. So how? Let's hear how, you know, your
So
story.
one of the things that's really neat about cannabis is like it will definitely point out the areas where you need balance. So when people tell me that when they medicate, they get the munchies, the number one thing I ask them is like, what is your diet like throughout the day? So for me, when I was medicating, I was binge eating, right? I wasn't eating at all throughout the day. I was a new mom. I was stressed out. I was depressed, all of these things, right? I had a house to take care of, all of that. So I was just like not eating during the day, but I would sit down at night to have my mommy time, my smoke time, and then I would like just binge eat. And I just hated that cycle. Well, it came down to the fact that I wasn't feeding my body nutrients all damn day. So of course, at night, cannabis, the whole purpose, right, is balance. It's not giving me the munchies. It's alerting me that I haven't eaten enough of the right micronutrients and macronutrients to feel sustained. So there, you can eat for pleasure and you can eat for fuel. And so it's basically telling my body, you have not eaten enough for fuel today. And I had to switch my mindset to that and learn how to eat for fuel. And then if I did get the munchies, I'm like, okay, check myself. What did I eat today? Did I eat enough? And then I changed my choices based on that. So it's helped me maintain my weight. I've maintained, over 125-pound weight loss for over 3 years now. It's helped me with my blood pressure. It's helped me maintain my gut health, which has been so great. It's helped me with my thyroidism. There's ways that it balances the body internally that help it maintain that weight. So when the body finds balance, it'll start shedding what it doesn't need. So for me, that basically was helpful in reducing inflammation, which was huge. We carry a ton of water weight sometimes through inflammation. And then using it as a motivation to work out. I know you were saying like no motivation or whatever, but I use it as a motivation to work out. I love to medicate before I work out. It gets me into a headspace of like having fun, having joyful movement, and finding something that I love. Like I won't do a workout or I won't do something physically if I don't love it. I've done a ton of programs that sucked, so now I use cannabis as a way to find joyful movement. So I find something that I love and I can combine the two. Which, it's a win-win, right? Can smoke my cannabis and move my body and have a great time. I'm in. So it really just helped me on a lot of different aspects. My mindset, being able to commit to fun movement, and then nutrition, being alerted, to what my body needed. And a lot of times it was, healthy fats. So I wouldn't deny myself that. I learned how to make a nice dark chocolate bar that was medicated, maybe that I could eat and, know that I was fueling my wellness while also satisfying my desire for chocolate bars, So again, another win-win, not punishing yourself, but using it as a tool and balancing your wellness with it. And that's really where things like just clicked for me in my body, just helped me. So I have a little like workshop called Mastering the Munchies, where I go over like the gut and how to balance and why these foods matter, why eating healthy fats throughout the day matter if you're wanting to reduce munchies, because a lot of times people don't want to get the munchies because they're binge eating and it's, not healthy, especially late at night, can cause acid reflux, other digestive issues, and more inflammation as you sleep. So, learning how to make balancing munchies can help too.
What are good munchies? Help us there. What are some good munchies?
I make these medicated no-bake cookies. It's my number one, like most requested recipe, and they are fucking phenomenal, but they have protein in them and they're easily medicated because you're just medicating the honey. So like I said, I usually get local honey because it's also great for allergies. And it's low inflammation because it's got oats in it. And the oats are a great, great prebiotic, which help feed probiotics to create that balanced gut biome, which we were discussing earlier, as well as adding a vegan protein, which is not going to cause inflammation like whey protein can. Whey protein is a dairy derivative. It's from dairy. So it can cause inflammation in the gut. And if you're pairing that with your medicine, again, it's like canceling it out, right? You've got something that's causing it, something that's trying to take it away. So using a non-inflammation vegan protein powder, some nut butter of your choice, peanut butter, whatever, and you just mix it all up, and they are so, so good. Sometimes I get real fancy with it, okay? And I get my little, like, you can use your thumb, or you can use a tablespoon. And I push that little thumbprint in there, put it in the fridge, but I make medicated chocolate. You can make your own medicated chocolate, or you can purchase a medicated chocolate bar at your dispensary. But I put a whole bag of vegan dark chocolate, and I'll put some RSO in it. And I will mix that up over a double boiler. And as those chill, I'll then go back and dip the chocolate into that thumbprint and put a pecan on top just to make it real fancy, just because I'm bougie like that. And I love, love, love it. But it's great because it's great for your mind. It has lots of healthy fats for brain health. It's neuroregenerative. You're double medicating. And as you eat healthy fats for a munchie, you actually are sustaining that hunger for longer. So your body's going to be able to use those healthy fats and that protein to help give you energy and help burn off waste while you sleep if you're munching late at night. So those no-bake cookies are one of my favorites. You don't want to put any added sugar in there. Use your honey. But that and like granola. I'm a big snacker, so I like to snack with granola.
Nice.
And just like that, double dip in my granola. No. What's your favorite munchie? I have to know. What's your favorite munchie?
Oh man, I like sweets. As far as like fruits, I like oranges, navel oranges, tangerines, stuff like that. Quick, good sugars, I guess.
Yeah.
Bananas.
I love that. You can do there's a medicated fruit salad that's super easy to make. Again, honey, lemon juice, strawberry, grapes, and blueberries, mix it all up. And so if you like a sweet, summer salad, it's great if you're going to be on the lake, on the boat, whatever, by the pool, chill it, let it sit in that honey, lime dressing. And let it medicate, and you can snack on that. And that, again, that's like microdosing for me. So I don't feel any guilt if I'm microdosing that way, if I'm eating that way, because I know I can manage it. I don't want to be on the floor getting the spinnies because I over medicated with edibles, So I try and keep it low and slow.
Like in a nice fruit salad like that, you're encouraging good stuff, sugars, healthy vitamins and stuff like that. So it's a win-win-win. I think there. Oh, I definitely love me some edibles. That's for sure.
What kind of?
Is there some? Pardon me. What kind of edibles? I was gonna say this. It's silly enough. Probably one of the strongest things I've had lately. I don't know why Jack doesn't have a rancher. So let's just chat. Was a pickle. Pickles.
Oh my God.
They were spicy dill pickles, and they were like medicated firecrackers. I don't know how they got so strong, but they wow, they hit like super hard and super fast.
Do you like egg salad or tuna salad?
Yes, I do.
I use those spicy pickles and I chop them up and I put them in my egg salad. And you can make deviled egg dip with those and eat it with like celery or grain-free pretzels. And it is so good. It's a nice protein option, but also medicated. and it is absolutely delicious. I love those pickles. Oh my God, but they'll knock you on your ass if you're not careful. Yes. Yeah. That's so funny.
That's I guess as far as like non-medicated snacks, that's one of my other favorites as far as like a summertime. It's kind of more of a seasonal thing, but one of my favorite things is I guess I guess what would that best way? I guess like a countertop pickle, I guess, basically. Some apple cider vinegar, slices of cucumber and onions, the white onions, or some brown, purple onion, either way. Just let them sit on the counter, a little salt, a little pepper, just kind of take out of it all day, especially when the onions have gotten just a little soft. I think they're almost better than the cucumber, but definitely a great summertime snack. That's good all day.
I love that. That fresh cucumber salad. And you know what is so great about that? And I'm here we go. Like I'm gonna put my little coach hat on. But what's so great about that cucumber is that it's a high water based vegetable. So you're getting hydration as you're eating it. And the onions are again another wonderful prebiotic for probiotics to help balance your gut out. So it's a great combination for the gut, which I absolutely love. Oh my gosh, I love eating that little salad that you said. I love cold salads like that. I let mine sit in the fridge and like marinade, you know. What did I make this weekend? Cucumber. I get a vegan feta and tomatoes and red onion. And that I love. Nice cold
Are
salad.
you vegan? I've heard you
Um,
mention it a couple of times.
I know, right? So I'm 90/10. I'm 90% plant-based and 10% animal products. So I'm open. I don't buy any meat products for the house, but I do buy honey. So we eat local honey just because I have awful allergies here in Oklahoma. I'm so allergic to like every single tree that exists here. So so I love using the local honey, but I'm not vegan. But so a lot of people come to me though that need to go plant-based. Their doctor has recommended they need to go plant-based. And why is that? Because it reduces inflammation and can help reverse the symptoms of disease in the body. So I do coach a lot how to incorporate plant-based into the diet. One of the things that I feature is monthly meal plan. So it's 30 total recipes, 15 animal proteins, 15 plant-based proteins, 2 weeks of sample meal plans with grocery lists. So you can kind of learn how to incorporate these meals and like things that you would already eat, like Korean beef and broccoli bowl, but like here's better options on how to make it. And here's how to make it, healthier. And just orange chicken was one of them. There's like pad thai. There's just a bunch of different options each month, snacks, cookies, shakes. Um, so got off on that. Bless you.
Thank you.
So I try and
Actually
stick
seen
with that diet.
as far as like I've been back and forth with the veggie thing. Was watching a cooking show the other day. It was like from embarrassingly like way back. It's like supermarket sweep kind of days, but it was like a cooking edition.
Yeah, yeah.
Anyways, they this cat made which I eat a lot of right now. The general torso, or I know I say that wrong. Chicken, but he was using mushrooms in place of the chicken and
Mm,
breading them up and seasoning them up like the general there. And I
yeah.
was like, oh, that sounds delicious. And
Was
I've
it
been
like
wanting to
was it
try
like
that.
lion's mane? Do you know what kind of mushroom it was?
I don't know. I
Mm,
didn't take note of exact mushroom, but
I
overall I thought it was a great idea. So obviously you enjoy some mushrooms. Is that your favorite thing?
Oh yeah, I once had these mushrooms that were smoked like ribs, like braised ribs. Oh my gosh, they were so, it was like it fell apart. It was so it was so surreal because I felt like I was eating like real ribs, but it was mushroom and it was just amazing. There's a lot of plant-based restaurants here in Oklahoma, in Tulsa especially. There's a large vegan following. So it's really easy to find plant-based options. Like vegan nachos are there's a place that has like a nacho bar. They even have vegan cheese. So you can build your own nachos and stuff like that. So there's a large vegan, like one of our the beatbox just got voted one of the top, like I think number 14 in the nation for vegan options. So it's pretty prevalent. But again, like I didn't really go plant-based until I was sick. You know, I was overweight and my doctor was like, you have to change what you're doing. And so I hired a dietitian and, learned why these foods were going to help me and how I could utilize them better. So I loved it. I mean, the process.
Why am I fucking shocked that sorry I cut you off? Why I was just gonna say, why am I shocked that there's so much vegan in Oklahoma? I would assume that again, kind of like breadbasket. I think of like cornfields, cattle.
Yeah,
You know what I
yeah.
mean? A steak
Yeah.
on every plate. Why is it so surprising to me that you're telling me there's a large amount of vegan restaurants there?
It is surprising. It is surprising because there's like I can name probably like 4 or 5 restaurants that have like there's a vegan um ramen place, that they have vegan egg that they put on there and all this stuff. So it's really interesting how there's such a big following here. I haven't done any research on it, but there's a huge vegan following. And also, you know what? That might be because we're all sick. Oklahoma is one of the sickest states with the most, chronic illness. So maybe the fact that there's a lot of people that are being forced into changing their diet. And so, I mean, there's a place that's a deli. I got a vegan Reuben for St. Patrick's Day. I was like, I have to come to this deli to try this because I've never had a vegan Reuben and I love Reubens. And I've had a Reuben from Katz's Deli in New York and nothing can touch that, right? But this came really close. It was so good. I thought I was eating a real Reuben. I was like, this is amazing. But they do their own, vegan cheeses and it's a real deli. They have their vegan like meat and stuff like that. So I think there's just a real health crisis, and it goes back to the nutrients, just like what you feed your plants. What are you feeding your body? Is it feeding your wellness or is it feeding your illness?
To me, that oh no, I read into into weird shit undertones. I guess to me, when I hear that again, I assume I told you what I assume. You know what I mean? Cornfields, cattle, steak on every plate.
Yeah.
But when I hear what you're telling me, I'm like, what do the people know that I don't know? Yeah, the people that are like raising these cows going, yeah, I ain't eating that shit. You see what they do to them cows? I ain't eating that shit. I'm fucking having a salad, you stupid ass.
Heart disease. Heart disease is one of the number one killers in America, and it's a chronic illness. When you go back, you can look up top 10 chronic illnesses. It's going to say cardiovascular disease, which includes stroke, seizure, and heart attacks. And you think about what are you eating, and a lot of times it also goes. We talk about the source of the food. I don't know if you've ever seen Forks Over Knives on Netflix. It's a great one. But what is the source of the food? Whatever the food is eating is what you're eating. So if it's eating no nutrients, if it's just eating garbage, filler food, you're then also getting those filler nutrients that don't exist. So your body's, you may be eating, a nice steak, but where is the source? I think there's a lot of there's even junk health food. Nothing is safe. So you just have to know the source of your food. It's so important. As much as you can, do as much as you can, and find resources in your area. I just shared a thing today. A local, it's called Farm Hippie. They have local ranchers and farmers that come there. They now accept EBT and SNAP. That's a huge thing people don't understand. So you can even be getting these foods. You can go to pick your own farms. You can buy seeds. You can buy plants, all of that on SNAP benefits as well, and start growing your own as much as you can. And all of that's covered, which a lot of people don't know that.
I didn't know.
No.
But, as far as like I don't know, meat in general goes, and again back and forth throughout my life on the veggie, no veggies, and I have my daughters to thank for that. I even just watched a thing on packing plants like last night on like the armor approach, and still ate meat today.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? But for the love of my daughters, they definitely have gone through. I got one right now that she's my youngest, teetering back and forth, but she's been the hardest nosed out of all three. All three have put me through veggie phase. I'm always kind of had one that wanted veggies. And throughout that process, I lean back on me, try to make things a little easier for myself. And I learn a little bit each time, but I can get I get it, in a lot of ways. Uh Dairy, I think the dairy, I've learned a lot about dairy lately and how it's more of a why it's still being pushed as hard as it is, and USA being the only country that actually consumes a lot of dairy, and it's for greed, it's for profit, and it's because the government backs the dairy industry heavily.
Mhm.
You know what I mean? And then in turn, we're taking up a lot of land. We're using a whole lot of water. You know what I mean? The amount of water that goes
Resources. Yeah.
into a single hamburger is mind blowing. So, there's a lot of reasons that I'm being coached to eat more right and more vegetarian for a lot of reasons, skipping the process. Like you kind of hinted to when we're talking about food value. Okay, why are we wanting the animal to basically be our middleman for nutrition?
Yeah. Right.
Here, cow, strip out half of what's here, and they'll add some bad shit when I could have just ate you to begin with and got all the good stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And a lot of loss of energy, yada yada yada. You know what I'm
You
saying?
have to go to the
Uh,
source. You have to go to the source. And plant medicine, just like plant medicine, plant food is just as beneficial for the body. So when you were doing your plant on and offs, did you notice any differences in your body?
oh yes, oh yes. It's a sad reality right there. Meat is by far a guilty pleasure at this point because I do notice the differences from my
Mm-hmm.
body, the way I held, the energy I have is one. You know what I mean? When I go back and eat that burger or the steak, I definitely notice the slowdown in my metabolism. Like
Mm-hmm.
instantly does not like that red meat anymore. I'm like forcing it in at that point. Yeah, time I switch over to main grapes, greens. And again, I've learned through this process. Uh thank thank you, girls. Thank you, my girls. I've
Aww.
learned to expand my menu 100% because I definitely have eaten more stuff, healthier foods now through trying to expand my menu for them. You know what I mean?
I love
Said
that.
earlier in life, asparagus, Brussels sprouts, shit like that. I would turn my head. I love asparagus now, Brussels
Mm,
sprouts, shit like that. So through that
yes.
process, I've found a lot of new things that I really, really enjoy.
So what was it? Can I ask? Because I'm curious and I'm nosy. So when you were in these veggie phases, was it was for them? And it
Oh, mainly,
okay.
mainly, yeah, yeah. Simplicity, you know what I mean? And
Yeah.
it's hard to not stand by it. You know, if they believe in something full heartedly and you're not willing
Mm,
to go, I believe in it too. It's hard to send the proper message. So, you know what I mean?
I love that.
I'll venture down the road if their passion's deep enough. You know, it's
I
a
love
trial and
that.
error.
I love that. I remember so when I was 10, I I went vegetarian. And my mom was like, if you're gonna be vegetarian, I'm not gonna cook for you. You have to learn how to cook for yourself. And we started a garden. And I that's when I started learning how to cook for myself and like learn how to build. And at 10, I noticed a difference in how my body was feeling, you know. But I think they showed some sort of like video or something at school about like all these animals dying. And so I had different reasons at that time. But it's amazing how even at that age, uh the difference I felt. I remember feeling like so much better eating just vegetables. So I love it. I love it. It was funny because my daughter, she's 9, and she like a couple months ago was like, Mama, are these this chicken that you've been making? This is not real chicken? And I'm like, oh baby, no. And she was like, have you been buying chicken for the house? And I'm like, oh baby, no. I haven't bought meat for the house in over 2 years, you know? And she's like, I didn't know that. She was trying to like tell, I guess, like her dad that I buy this already like pre-made chicken and he can't find it anywhere, you know? And I'm like, oh yeah, it's because it's like tofu, you know? Like it's not actually chicken, but she doesn't know that. I just tell her it's orange chicken. Like, she doesn't know.
It's awesome.
But I love it.
Super cool. Sometimes you gotta, yeah. It's awesome that you've been able to trick her all that time into thinking that she was eating regular chicken. It's sad that you have to do that, but
Right. Right. I know. Well, and like you said, like convenience, like I don't want to buy meat just for her. I'm not gonna, cook 2 meals as well. So I just stopped
it's
buying
expensive.
meat for the house. Yeah. And I learned how to make, like vegan. We do vegan baked meatballs, like we eat really great meals. We're not like just eating vegan chicken nuggets all the time. But for her, my daughter was actually born with 7 food allergies. So that also sparked a lot of my health journey, was like, I'm going to have to teach her how to navigate living a life of food allergens. And thankfully, there's a book out that's the NAET. I think I got that right because I know I'm high. I think it's NAET. And it talks about how you can reverse food allergies and within yourself through food and through these practices. And so through that, was able to remove food allergies. Dairy and cashews are the only two she has left. But learning how to make a lot of plant-based meals and make them taste good and heal the body. has been fun for sure.
Yeah, I just caught that 222 or just was here in Michigan. I was lucky enough to catch it. um
It's 123 right now for me.
Still a good number. That's
Right?
awesome. It's um lost track here. And I caught the numbers and it made me lose track of what I was. Um, we were talking about food, correct?
Yeah.
Oh,
I love the 222, the
there
angel numbers. You talked about that earlier too, as a part of your spiritual journey.
very huge part. I still see the numbers and I still follow the numbers. I honestly, when I don't see the numbers, I start to question or reflect on myself a little bit.
You're
And
like,
then when I do see the numbers, I'm like, yes, you're back. You know what I mean?
yeah,
I yeah, they're
yeah.
they're
It's like,
they're
thanks,
super powerful.
universe. Thanks, universe. Yeah.
Do you believe in numbers and some of the quirky, I guess, stuff of life? Um, but
I do. I do. It's almost become like a thing also with me and my daughter. If we see them, like numbers in the wild is what we call it. And like, and it's the universe telling you like you're on the right path, and we follow. It's fun. It's fun. I think it brings mindfulness to you. I think it's the universe's way of also bringing mindfulness and like bringing you back in. A lot of people don't understand numerology and numbers. But you can even if you don't understand numbers, you can also look at it as a moment of reflection when you see, in mindfulness.
so I'm kind of curious, as far as we've talked about cannabis and our children. I mean, mine are way past 9, that's for sure. 9. In fact, I just became a grandfather like a month and a half ago. That's a
Congratulations.
phases life I'm super stoked about. I, I love baby pictures anymore. I guess I'm getting softer. Getting
Aww,
softer, but I
I
do love
love
the baby
it.
pictures. But I don't know. God damn it. I got thinking about Chase and I squirreled a little bit there.
Oh no,
Oh,
you were talking
cannabis and
about
kids.
kids. Yeah, our
Cannabis
kids.
and kids.
And
How do you feel? How are you gonna approach how do you feel about cannabis? I mean, as we were raised, honestly, as I'm talking to an ex dare, and by the way, you're the second kind of dare circle that ended up in cannabis that I've talked to lately. The Weed Fairy and her grown gnome was also a big dare person in high school that turned out to be in cannabis. I think that's super cool.
oh my
But I
gosh.
mean, how do you feel about like say the next generation passing it on to, obviously your daughter? I mean, is it going to be a multi-generational? Are we doing, you know what I mean?
Yeah,
I,
yeah,
it was
yeah,
every cannabis
absolutely.
is everything opposite they told us it would be.
Oh yeah. And you
I
know
think
what? That's the thing that I love about it, about the education side, is that she has seen me teach. She has seen me hold classes. Especially with retreats. I did some bud tender and dispensary trainings. So she's heard me talk about cannabinoids, but not only that, like she's seen it change my life. So I feel as the more open we are with the conversation, especially around children, not just using medicine, but like, here's why I use this and here's why it's helpful. And, like these are the other ways that I use it. Like she knows if something is marked with my medicine and it's in the fridge, like she can't have that. right? She knows that I have my own, this is mommy's medicine, this whole cabinet, right? So it's very open conversation. So that way there's no guesswork. She knows what it is. It's not a big deal. Um, it's like so not a big deal that like she tells everybody that like I help people with cannabis. And so like sometimes that's the funny part is like sometimes she just overshares, like not everyone has to know right away because you don't know how people feel about it. You don't know how they're going to react. So um, but no, I think having the open conversation, I think that's how the next generation really can change. And not only just with healthcare, but I also believe with agriculture and for commerce. There's so much that can be made with even hemp, like flooring and concrete and housing. So I think really teaching them the full benefits and educating them, they'll be able to actually make the impact and change some things in the world with it using these natural resources. So we just have to keep the conversation open.
Definitely can appreciate that. Uh Again, man, I think there's a I don't know. I think cannabis has a place and purpose, you know, no matter it. I'm not saying younger generation should use it, but there's, honestly a time and a place, so many kids today suffer from terrible anxiety.
Mm-hmm.
And I've come from a generation where I've seen pharmaceutical drugs again in separate ways. I mean, I've referenced them in like pain and addiction ways, but early on when I grew up, they were quick to throw out Ritalin and
Mm-hmm.
shit like that to
Yeah.
kind of control kids. And nowadays, with anxiety, it's more dangerous drugs. And what I've seen personally from my stepfather, long-term use of those type drugs pretty much wears the senses down. What he took at one point to help control his anxiety later in life, he couldn't necessarily hardly do without. And they ended up making, I watched what was what what I mean, amazing man who people love to be around him. You know what I mean? He loved to be around people, kind of go backwards through the medications and not want to be around people, not be around crowds and
Mm.
shit like that. So I wouldn't want to see, today's youth necessarily get into a long-term cycle of like that when cannabis and you know what I mean? And it's sad that it's frowned on, but could aid
Well,
and help.
it's such an uphill battle because you can get a medical card for your child, but then there's still a stigma that you're medicating your child. There's no stigma with big pharma, right? Oh, well, the doctor says that this is necessary. Well, the doctor also said that, this is necessary now, that this is a medical card. So I think that it's so hard because especially I see so many kids with epilepsy, with ADHD, um, you know, anxiety, depression, parents coming to me that their kids need help, right? Like they need resources for their children. And even if they do have a medical card, these products aren't allowed on school grounds. The school won't allow even CBD on premise a lot of the time because if it's a full spectrum, there's that small percentage of THC. So, it's a double-edged sword. You can get your kid a medical card, sure, But can you properly medicate them? A lot of times parents have to wait until their children are out of school to properly medicate them and use it as a medicine. So I think we're making strides in changing the narrative between prescriptions and using cannabis. But then it's like, if they're not able to utilize it during the hours they need it, like almost like, then what's the point? I think a lot of people feel. But again, the conversation's there. There's a need for it. I think the earlier we teach children and we raise children to have a supported endocannabinoid system, I think the easier it will be for them to find balance throughout life. Right. I really do think that in balancing the endocannabinoid system doesn't just mean with cannabis, with herbs, spices, and food. So
I appreciate that answer. And again, as far as cannabis and children, I've had that issue come up again, a few times in life for multiple reasons. And the latest one I've had, well, cannabis flat out, I feel, saved my middle girl from what could have been a pharmaceutical tragedy.
I'm so glad.
That's real. That's real. But thank goodness for open mindedness and CBD, that most definitely saved her life multiple ways. But the latest battle that I've seen, and we've kind of talked about, people looking down on cannabis for certain reasons, was through the birth of the grandson there. You kind of talked about having faith in the doctor, or working with the doctor, being open with the doctor about your cannabis consumption. Well, in this case, it was, again, a worry of CPS, doctor's opinion, stuff like that, cannabis came into play. My oldest daughter uses, again, cannabis, 27, by the way, uses cannabis for anxiety, biggest reason, first and foremost. And throughout the birthing process, the question obviously came up to quit consuming during, pregnancy. And I can see this is a sensitive subject, but it's, at current point near and dear to my heart. I feel that, as you're talking about earlier, just a second ago, learning the cannabinoid process, maybe getting conditioning earlier on, understanding the process. I don't necessarily think that cannabis consumption through pregnancy could be a bad thing. You know what I mean? In this case, I would like to say, even though in the end Chase was born healthy and awesome, I get to say that, I guess, super awesome. There was a time through.
There's studies that have been conducted on the PubMed.gov website about pregnancy and cannabinoids and cannabis. And there's a lot of favorable documentation about the support of the mother's health as well as the baby's health. They say, a child, they may be born premature, but they're not, it's usually like a lower birth weight. Well, my daughter was born at 5 pounds and she was 3 weeks early. She was very, very tiny. Right. And I chose not to medicate with cannabis the entire time. And I used prescriptions and I got so sick my entire pregnancy. I was so freaking sick. I wish I would have used cannabis because I couldn't stop throwing up some days. And it's so amazing. Even just CBD is so amazing as an anti-nausea medicine. So I am 100%. I have seen it help so many pregnant women, especially through like hypermesis and things like that. So uh, yeah, there's some good research on it too that goes over pregnancy and um, and cannabis use.
I'm glad you're an advocate, to be honest with you. Super glad to be honest with you. And I'm in line with you. I'm in line with you. I honestly think that it would have been a beneficial for her to continue. Unfortunately, again, because of worry of CPS and
Oh
stuff
yeah.
like that, there was an interruption in the cannabis use. And this is what I seen as an onlooker is if she would have, and again, what do we know before I get into that? What do we know about the cannabis and the cannabinoids? It supports our immune system, right? So why can't that be a good thing at birth when days in they're trying to fucking give them shots? Oh, get protected with this when they could be born with a healthier, happier immune system. And as far as we know, it could be super beneficial. And they not even need them fucking shots. But anyways, through the fear of, getting in trouble or whatever for cannabis use, she decided not to use. Now, ill
Yeah.
effects, what I seen were blood sugar problems from not consuming cannabis. Right off the bat, went crazy. Hypertension became an issue.
Yeah.
Anxiety came back.
Yeah.
All ill effects for the baby. Chase was born a month early
Mm-hmm.
because of hypertension.
Mm-hmm.
I feel if she would have been able to lower the consumption rate, but yet still use cannabis, or that's not my judge. You know what I mean? You should.
I
It's your
agree.
body. Only you
I agree.
can properly dictate your medicine. You know what I mean? But with that being said, I think it would have been a much smoother ride for her and baby if
Well, with all the
cannabis would have
information
stayed
they
present.
have on cannabis with hypertension, just that alone, that's a benefit right there. Anxiety, stress on the baby. Yeah, all of it. All of it. Cannabis is a huge benefit. And again, that's why educating, like, knowledge is power, right? Educate, 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 let people know. And get involved in studies. A lot of times there's a lot of there's a ton of studies going on right now where you can actually report your cannabis usage, and I cannot remember the name of the website, but you just Google it. And there's studies that they want to know, like, how is it helping you? How much are you medicating with? They want to know these medical studies that they want to see what the reaction is, how long, and so you can actually donate your consumption to research.
I'm glad that more and more people are waking up, I guess. But it was sad to see, and at least in my case, that it was an issue. You know what I mean? And I'm sure other people see the same issue.
Well, yeah, women
But
are, and women are afraid of losing their children from CPS if you are an active cannabis user, even if you have a medical card, because even if you have a medical card and the baby tests positive, which they'll give the baby a drug test, which a lot of times they won't even tell you, um, you know, then they can take whatever appropriate action they need to take as they feel. And so that's a really scary place to be. Um, I have a really close friend to me that they had a stillbirth, and she medicated before the delivery to going to the hospital. And so when they tested her and tested the baby, they tested the blood, tested positive, and CPS did get involved. And so it was a real situation, and that stuff happens all the time. And it's very, very scary. To think about that, even if you have a medical card, that you could still get in trouble, for medicating while pregnant. Even if it helps you, because man, that medication can have so many adverse effects, not just on your body, but the baby's body. So it's easy, advocate. We gotta educate. Educate.
So I guess where do you see yourself where do you see your cannabis growing go cannabis dream going? There we go. Here in the near future, as I've heard earlier, you're very goal orientated. I like the visualization board as well.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's another thing I think it's cool about you, as well as I believe in manifestation, the power of manifestation too. I think a lot of people, when they think about it or put thought into trying it, that's where they lack, is
Right.
the vision. You know what I mean? Keeping that into your head. And I think that's where, kind of going back to staying young, being a kid again, I think that's where a lot of people go wrong these days, is they tend to check into that 9 to 5 job, lose sight of their hopes and dreams, and that
Yeah.
muscle that we use to imagine and create and all that shit just shrivels up like a fucking raisin. So I think it's pretty awesome that you're still using a vision board and setting goals. I think that's super awesome and very necessary. So, with that being said, if we were to peek in on your board and take a little look,
See it?
what would be
Okay.
some of the things we would see? Yes, please.
Okay, so I sleep with my vision board above my bed, like, because this is my bed, right? So I have it on these little, and I do a vision board party every single year with my daughter, which is one of our favorite traditions. And then I save the boards every year, and we do go back and we look at them, and we see, had any of the other ones from the past, if any of those other visions come true. But this is my board. And one of the things I like to do is I like to start off with meditation before we do the boards, of like, where do you see yourself? Like, if you could attain everything that you wanted, it's, nothing was stopping you. Like, what would you want to do? What would you want to have? And how would you want to give? And so, like last year, my daughter wanted to give more to the homeless. And so we did more with that. But like, replace expected with awesome, no expectations. Everything is awesome, right? Together we change the world. This was really like the source of the board. But what's funny is that my daughter and I, we both put two of the same things on our boards, totally out of the blue. But we put the exact same ad for an RV, which I couldn't find one of these. So I'm still manifesting that. But we did get an RV. And then the no dinner drama, which I thought was hilarious that she put that on her board and I put it on mine, because I'm like, girl, you the one giving me the drama. That's why that's on here, Um, but it's just a bunch, like, romance starts with a healthy heart, free spirit, fit to be confident, mindful shopping, all of these fun things. And it's just great to visualize and see it, because as one of my favorite things, yeah, I know you said you sound like a broken record sometimes, and I feel the same way, but I love the phrase abracadabra. In Hebrew, it means as I speak, I create. And so as we speak it, we create it. But as we put it down, we make it real, right? We design it. So we can take this and we can design the life that we really desire by seeing it and visualizing it first. So once you visualize it, then your brain believes that it's real, because your brain don't believe anything. It doesn't know what is right, what is wrong. It thinks everything you tell it is 100% the truth, right? So if you tell it that these things are real and these exist in your reality, then they will come to you.
I totally agree. And And I know it sounds kind of like corny, but people that watch know I really do fucking agree.
I love
But uh huge believer in everything you're saying. In fact, I was just discussing being grateful last night. Actually, it's not even enough to think your gratefulness that you I was I was like, I know it's kind of embarrassing, but you need to, go to your safe place, your car or whatever. But as you're kind of saying it, just said, you have to say it. You know what I mean? You can visualizing it is 100%, but you have to say it. You actually have to put that vibration,
it.
that frequency out there. You have to start the wave to create it, to put it out there in the ether.
But also be prepared, okay? Because as you speak, you create, right? So you've got to be open and expansive to accept that. If you're wanting that and you're wanting to step in that next vibration of whatever the desires of your heart are that you've seen, you got to be able to be open to accept it. You got like you were talking about grounding and you letting go. God, I love that for you so much, because the art of letting go is something that people don't understand. And once you let go, you create all this room for more, for growth, right? You're getting rid of what doesn't serve you anymore. And bringing that into existence. You've got to be ready to also accept it, which is you're grateful. I know you're talking about gratitude, but I'm always like, oh, I'm just so grateful I get to live the life of my dreams every single day and help people, and make that and create that and make that the reality.
I don't know why, but well, I do know why, to be honest with you, because the tone that you set throughout the evening, and the self-love. I think either I feel like you're a good person to discuss self-love for, because we've honestly talked about addiction recovery and stuff like that, gratefulness. And I think a lot of people miss the self-love part of it all too, that you have to kind of love yourself. You can't give what I say this night, you can't give what you don't have. So you need to take that time to, meditate and love yourself a little bit. But can you give some tips on how, or talk to the
Yeah.
folks about how important a little self-love is?
So one of the things, this is such a great topic and I love talking about it. So like, thank you so much. I'm grateful that you asked me this. Because before I really understood what self-love was, like I even went to Google and I'm like, how to like have self-love, like how to build self-love. Like how would I love myself? Like, yeah, I think I'm cool. I'd hang out with me, I think I'm a fun person. But like I didn't understand like how do you build that? So I grew up in a very abusive home and suffered a lot of trauma in my childhood. So I didn't really know how to have that, like that confidence. And so um, moving forward to space for a second, um, moving forward through that, should ask me the question again because I just spaced on my answer.
I asked if you could explain to them, how important and how to self-love.
Okay. Yes. Thank you. So I didn't understand, right? I didn't ever have those habits and I didn't see an example of it in my life. So, I actually hired a coach. I hired a coach and I was like, I know how to work out. I know how to eat right. I've hired a dietitian. I've done all these other things. And she actually helped me understand what self love was. And self love for me was learning how to show up for myself, how to wake up on time, how to manage, how to break toxic chains, how to build generational strengths. Self-love for me is, you know, a lot of times different than what it's going to be for you. And so, like you said, you can't give what you don't have. So how do you get that? How in your possession to have, right? So how do you get that? How do you build that? The number one thing is that you've got to get in touch with your higher self. Again, I love meditation for this. Some people find it really hard to meditate and have a quiet mind, but acknowledge the thoughts that are there. You don't have to quiet the mind. Sometimes the thoughts are there for you to process them, and that's the meditation itself, is the journey of thought. So starting there, and what is it that is festering, right? And that's where the self journey, self love really begins. So it's hard to say like cookie cutter, eye masks, bubble baths, and, you know, pedicures. But really getting in touch with that higher self. And that's, you have to decide, what is it that is going to make you feel most loved. I'm not sure if you're familiar with the love languages, stuff like the 5 love languages. It's a beautiful book, but it basically boils down to your main love language is what you did not receive as a child. So that's why you desire that the most. And that's why that's what you give, because that's not what you were given. So with that type of theory, right, you can do a self-reflection of like, what is my love language? And since that's not what I got as a child, how can I heal those wounds in a self-loving manner? So it's a really beautiful, like, self-discovery. It's, you know, discovering self is really, really beautiful when you take that journey. And then you get to decide what steps help you. So for instance, I'll give an example. Like mine is quality time. So I became very codependent in my relationships. And so I had to heal that codependency and learn how to love myself. I had to learn how to love myself by being alone, and breaking ties with toxic patterns, toxic behavior, codependency, number one, you know, and learn how to love myself. And what did that look like? And to be in my, my solitude.
That's awesome. I really believe that that is another key part to everything. To be honest with you, you know, recovery. I think that's, for one thing. I think that's why a lot of people lose themselves into addiction, is because of a little bit of the self love. You know, they're covering up or they're masking something about themselves that they necessarily don't want to or don't know how to fix.
Yeah.
And, you know, I think that, again, it's something that's not necessarily talked about a whole lot. And again, as you kind of pointed out, you Googled it. You know what I mean? A lot of people don't know seriously how to start, or you know what I mean? It sounds silly to them some point, you know. For me, when I started thinking about meditation, I found myself thinking like a guilt trip, taking that 10 minutes aside, you know what I mean? But it needed it. It was important,
And
you know what I
why?
mean?
And why would you feel guilty for spending time with yourself? You know, like,
Oh,
don't punish yourself for wanting to spend time with yourself. It's so important to spend time with self. I know that sounds silly, but it's so, so important.
right on. So what was that book again that you kind of threw out there that you should check out, or that I believe you were talking you threw out a book out there during
Oh,
you were
the
talking about the
5 love
coaching
languages.
phase.
The 5 love
There you
languages.
go. I
Yes.
believe that was it.
You can go online and take a free test. It's like 5lovelanguages.com, and you can see which love language is your, it breaks it down for you. And it's really eye-opening to see. I remember taking it the first time I was in a toxic relationship. And then I took it after I like have healed some wounds and all that stuff. And it was interesting how my love language actually shifted when I wasn't trying to be the person for someone else, which then again is also another act of self-love, is that we're not changing who we are for our partner, right? We're staying true to ourselves. And that's the truest act of self-love, is to be authentic and to love and accept self. Which goes back when you were talking about addiction. A lot of times people struggle with maybe that acceptance of harm, self-harm, and disappointment in choices, and not knowing that it's okay to have self-forgiveness. Forgiving yourself can heal a lot of wounds, and create a beautiful future for you. Look at that. Coach inspiration.
Good inspiration too. You're obviously good at what you do. That's for sure.
I get so
very
passionate.
vibration, spirit, man. Yeah, I'm definitely digging the vibe you put out for sure. And I don't mean, I guess it sounds corny, but I believe really it's an underlined, not talked about issue. I my thing is I always try to underline and remind people to do something nice for somebody. Random acts of kindness do save lives. I say it every night, damn it, every show. But I also tell them they have to take time to, for a little bit of self-love, or a little bit of meditation, because you can't run on empty. And you can't you can do a lot of things, but you can't fake it. That's one of the things, you can't fake it if you till you make it type things. You cannot
No.
give it if you ain't got it. It has to come from the heart. You know what I
Yes.
mean?
I don't like that
Uh,
phrase, fake it till you make it. No, I love grow through what you go through so you can glow through. Don't fake it till you make it, because it's okay to feel the feelings. It's okay to have rough times. You like, just like our cute little plants, right? Those little seedlings got to pop, right? You got to get that. So you got to grow through the hard part to glow at the end, to get that light, to that end result, that vision board result. Don't fake it.
so any other coaching advice that you'd like to throw out there?
Eat more nutrients and hydrate before you dehydrate. Definitely the number one thing I think is that we're not eating enough food. And then when we do eat, we're just choosing foods that satisfy taste instead of fuel the body. And I don't mean fuel the body just like for energy, but for health, repair, and all around wellness. So I'm not talking about like fueling yourself for endless, Energizer Bunny energy. But a lot of people want that type of energy. So it helps.
So let me see here. What haven't we covered this evening? And I don't want to keep you up. You already told me that at the
I
beginning
know.
you were past your bedtime, and
I'm
it's
such
been a
an old
minute.
lady.
I don't know if you've looked at a clock. Don't look at a clock.
Okay. Can I tell you that I took a nap before this?
But
I swear I'm such an old lady. You know what though, one of the things when I was struggling with like my self-love and finding schedule routine was that I didn't have a morning routine that I loved. And so one of the things now is that I have a morning routine that I love, and I've created it so I get to lay in bed, I do my 10-minute meditation, I can get up, I do my breakfast, I medicate, sometimes I go live, I hang with my peeps. But it's really fulfilling because you get to set the tone for the day. And once you realize that power and take control of that, that's another self-love step. So I'm like staying up late, and I'm like, my just morning routine is just going to be pushed off just a little bit.
I'm sorry for that. I'm sorry for that.
It's worth it. Thank you for having me. It's so sweet.
Well, thank you for coming and hanging out. And I'd like to also kind of throw out a thank you to Mr. Stony Rockefeller hanging out in chat
Yeah.
that made the connection for you to come on. Definitely. Thank you. Awesome guest.
Thank you. I can't even see any of the chat, so I'll have to check it later.
Well, if you want to go back and watch a 3.5 hour episode, they've said nothing but great things about you the whole evening. They have concurred. It's been a great guest, great conversation.
I appreciate it. No, look, I'm already blushing. I can't even contain it. I'm awful. I have no poker face. Do not. But seriously, thank you so much for having me. I appreciate it.
Oh, no, my pleasure. I don't think I've left anything out, but again, I don't want to overstay my welcome. I'd like for you to come out and hang out again at some point.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Absolutely. I know I didn't want to look at the clock, but it is late. So no stress on this side.
So how can do you prefer one-on-one consultations as far as the coaching goes? I mean, we went over that briefly earlier, but is that your preferred method? Online one-on-one? I mean, that's that's the good and bad, I guess, about today's technical side of things. Is I don't know. The one-on-one is super awesome. I hope, and I truly mean this. I hope that the land, not the brick and mortar, but the dream comes true.
Thank
But
you.
in the same aspect of it, we're kind of blessed in this digital age of spreading the love worldwide. You know what I mean? So do you prefer consultations? Do you do consultation coaching, video coaching, kind of like we're doing now?
Yeah.
Stuff like that.
So what's really neat is because it's all virtual. So the one-on-one, I do like a 90-minute one-on-one. And that's a full, vision casting, goal setting. You get a full plan, follow this. And that's for someone who's like maybe is experienced with cannabis. They just maybe need a kickstart. They don't need the accountability. They don't need anything else. They just need someone to like go over everything with and say, okay, what do you recommend? What should I try? What should I do? That, and then my programs, those are the most intimate. So you get access to me 40 hours a week through like Voxer is an app. So it's almost like a walkie talkie, and you can text, you can send photos. So I have clients that'll be like, hey, I'm going to be going out to a restaurant. And if you've not eaten low inflammation before, a lot of times you're unsure of what to do in social situations. So you've got a coach literally in your back pocket that you can text a menu picture to, or we can plan ahead. But we do one-on-one weekly Zoom calls. So it's an hour long, and we go over like, what were your celebrations? What were your obstacles? And during my 6-week program, I mean, it's intense. We've got a goal that we're trying to reach within 6 weeks. So it's very much hands-on daily check-ins. If you ever wanted like the most like annoying Jiminy Cricket on your shoulder, no. Coaching with me is just like having that person in, just as that constant support. And then the mind body bong is the more intense, and it's more education. Whereas my 6-week summer support is just that. We're working on these goals. We're working on them quickly. Telling your goal to someone raises your chances of reaching it by 65%, but working with someone on it raises it over 85%. So not just speaking it, right? But how do you put those words into action? So I really help people find how to put it into their own action, their desires and what they want into easy action. Like it doesn't have to be hard. And that's the thing. People think it has to be this hard program and your whole life has to turn upside down and shake it around like a snow globe. And that's not the case. It's about finding easy, simple solutions in ways that you can manage so you feel balanced and you feel aligned.
I appreciate the one-on-one. Boy, that's got to be hard. That that's got to be hard to find time for. To be honest with you, to the individualized service like that. But man, I definitely appreciate that aspect of it for sure. I'm sure those that you coach do 100%.
Yeah. Yeah, it's very intimate. You know, I've done a couple group coaching programs and they're just not as intimate. And I find that when you're working with someone and you're sharing like your struggles and you know it's a safe space and you're really investing in that time, just the progress, it just catapults your wellness and your relationships all like in all aspects. So there's just something so great about having that uh intimate connection with someone who's 100% on your side with tools and resources that you can utilize right there, in real time. So it's a lot of fun. I love what I do. I love what I do. So because I hired a coach, I went and got certified as a mindfulness coach, wellness coach, and I've been doing actually group fitness for years. I was a traveling PE coach for a while, which was a lot of fun. So I like combining everything together to help you find alignment in your life.
I can appreciate. I look to a lot of mentors, coaches for motivation. Sadly, sadly,
Mhm.
but I love inspirational quotes and messages like that. Mental coffee is what I
Mhm.
like to call
Yeah,
it.
right. Being the ripple. That's what's the biggest thing for me is being the ripple, making that
So
impact.
when you talk goals with people, how do you suggest that they go about starting that process? I guess.
Uh, so one of my favorite things is that when we're going to sit down and talk about your goals is we start with meditation. So we sit there to connect, think about what is your highest self show up as this goal person, right? What do you want? You want less pain. One of my clients, she was in a motorcycle accident and shattered her hip. And so she wanted to be able to walk from her house to the end of the street without any pain. That was the goal. And so, okay, well, how do we get there? Well, these are the choices we have to make. And here's how we show up as that. So it's really about, and sometimes people come to me and they're like, I don't really know. I don't really know. I just know I want better. And so we dive in deep. I ask a lot of probing questions. Sometimes we uncover like unhealed traumas. Sometimes there's heartache that's there. Sometimes there's anxiety or some mental things that you were aware of, some cycles and patterns. So just really diving in deep because it is a safe space. It's your wellness, it's your life, and I can't help guide you. I don't understand you. So the best way for me to do that is for you to tell me what you want, what you need.
That's awesome. You know, as far as like when I started looking into mentors, goals, stuff like that, I guess the biggest or best advice I got as far as goals was through Jim Rohn, who I would very much consider to be a mentor. I don't know if you listen to him, but when he talked about goals, uh, I guess don't be afraid to put even the littlest goal on
Mm.
the list. because I guess he said because there's just something empowering about just crossing them off the list. It gives you that drive to put another on.
We don't celebrate the
Very
small victories enough, you know, and that's something is, you know, we think about reward behavior, just like with, you know, Pavlov's dog and ringing the bell with the treat. Like we're the same way. Like we have the same functioning brain, similar, you know, like we like that reward, but and I feel like it's a societal brainwash that we can only celebrate massive achievements and greatness and perfection, you know, when instead it's like, hey, I've been having a really tough time mentally and I was able to take a full shower and do my dishes today. That's a victory. That's, you know, that's taking action over anything. So and even if it's messy action, taking that action. So yeah.
So again, I believe you're a seriously awesome coach. I am thanking you for your time. You know, I was just thinking about this. Uh you got such an awesome vibe to your spirit. I don't want to beat it to death. I don't want to I don't I don't want to wear down the coach. I don't want to wear down the coach.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh, yeah. No,
Oh,
I know. I ramble. I'm just I'm so passionate. It's really an
oh,
issue.
I it's super awesome. I'm greatly, you know, you're good at what you do, for sure, for sure.
Thank you. I
I don't want to
appreciate
overstate my welcome though at that same point though. Uh, so I guess have you watched some of the shows? I heard you kind of talk about skimming through. Have you caught an end? Have you caught an end? I guess.
I've played it through. I like to listen in the background, so I didn't watch it. Why?
Well, because there's multiple faces to the show, basically. Uh, so basically, um, so most nights were just like this.
Yeah.
Monday nights are guaranteed what I call Weed Nerd World. Okay. The Weed Nerd World is open to just past guests. You have to do this aspect to come hang out with the Weed Nerds.
That's
So
awesome. Well, how do
base
you do this?
just like you did tonight. The link that I sent you tonight is always good. So anytime that you see Weed Nerd World, you know what I mean, you're open to come in, no invitation. You just come hang out, talk about whatever you want to talk about, be a part of it. Greatly, we love new people, new ideas, new conversation, new viewpoints. It's always welcome. So Monday nights, 2 o'clock, always Weed Nerd World. The other ways you can find a Weed Nerd World usually is if the guest goes short, then
Yeah,
there's a Weed Nerd World. So
that's
anytime it's the other nights are random. So anytime you see one, you're always welcome. Same link, just click it, come hang out. And then the show actually, kind of told you beforehand, could go from 11:30 to 4:20, but as everybody knows that that's not too set in stone. There's been a lot of episodes that have went
what.
way past 4:20. Rosted Rosted Bob took me till like 8:30 in the morning one
Oh
time,
my
from 11:30
God.
to 8:30 in the morning. But you can
Oh,
find Wiener Worlds. Shit, last night or the other night when I did a Wiener World, I fired up like 11:30, and I think we ended up shutting it down at like 10 a.m. So
I
there's a
think.
good chance you can get up and like it still be on.
Oh my. I get up in the morning and I'm like, morning. I'm making my coffee and my blunts, and you guys are still jamming. I love it so much. Oh, that's awesome. Um, Well, like I said, thank you again so much for having me. I appreciate it. I really do.
I appreciate it. One last silly thing I'd like to get from you, please, before you go. And that's a silly little thing that I call the sound bite. And that's basically it'll be a commercial for this episode at one point. What I'm looking for is my words, my version is, hey, this is Eagle, and I'm on fucking talking shit with Eagle, episode 679. You say whatever you want before, after that, as long as that's the bones of it. You know what I mean? I'd be
Okay.
completely grateful.
You
I'm
asked
ready.
me this at the end of this show, and I'm like, I'm a baked
Ha!
potato.
Oh, I am sorry. And then I have been ridiculed like that a few times. What now? Why don't you get this in the beginning?
Oh my gosh. Okay.
Oh, too
I have to like
funny.
actively. Okay. Okay. Yeah. Okay. Okay. I have to like actively like not smile, and that's really hard for me because I'm a happy person. Okay. So wait, did you say it was episode 679? The goose
Yes,
drink
ma'am.
wine, the monkey on the collar. Okay. All right. This is Amy Lee, the Boho Health Coach, on fucking talking shit with Eagle, episode 679. Yes.
I don't think it could have
Boy.
got any better if it was even in the beginning. That was perfect. That was
Okay,
perfect.
great. Fabulous. Well, I don't, do I have to log myself off? I don't know how to do this. How do you technology this late at night?
Well, you can just hit where it says, if you tap your screen, it will say leave. But I'm going to go ahead and wrap this episode up as well. So if you just want to hang out for a second, we can end it together, I guess. So
Absolutely.
for those of you guys that tuned in, thank you for your time. I'm very grateful. I'm sure Miss Amy is as well. Thank you. One last thank you for Mr. Sony Rockefeller for making this happen. Greatly appreciate that as well. For the rest of you guys, if this is the end of your journey, don't forget to help somebody out. Random acts of kindness do save lives. Living, breathing example of that. With that being said, we are out of here. Thank you one last time.